Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. If you hear noise in the background, forget my loud Jeep. I don't know if my iPhone's canceling it or not, but you know what I'm saying? I'm going to hit pause when I'm done talking
It is.
or
It
hit mute.
sounds fine.
Uh,
It doesn't sound as
oh,
bad as you would think.
that's interesting. So maybe I got an iPhone 16 Pro Max. It's canceling it out. The
Mhm.
other iPhone had an option you could cancel out sound, but apparently this is doing it automatically. But um, it's loud here to me. But anyway, we're talking about a really deep subject. We're asking, what do Pan Africanists do? Like literally, what the fuck do they do? Um, me and my co-host Wani like go all over Africa. I've been all over West Africa. I hadn't been quite to East Africa or South Africa yet, but it's on the agenda. West Africa is beautiful, but during my extensive time in studying West Africa, I never saw one Pan Africanist. Not one. Been to multiple villages, slept in multiple castles and shit. Never seen a Pan Africanist. So why are you over here telling me to go to Africa when you're never in Africa? That's one part of what we're saying. And number two, we're asking, who in the fuck do you really work for? Now, on Professor Alon's page, we don't talk shit without backing it up. My evidence for who you work for comes from Miley Karinga. Y'all can take a moment and look him up, Dr. Miley Karinga, who is a known operative. I came to the conclusion months ago that Pan-Africanism may have been innocent. One of my favorite scholars, Dr. John Henry Clark, was a Pan-Africanist. So was Joseph Ben Ackerman, who somebody I respect very heavily. So was uh, God dog it, help me out, Delaney, Martin Delaney, Dr. Martin Delaney. But I think they tried it. They said, "Hey, let's try something new," which is called intelligence. You tried new tactics, but it failed. It didn't fail because of Americans. It failed because different cultures of melanated people don't view uh, each other like we do. We view each other as one big family. You know, we used to, but we were taught otherwise. But that's what we're gonna get into today. Uh, so, question: What do Pan Africanists do, Wani?
It looks like they go around and get on reparations boards and try to divert the money over to everyone brown and then get grants so that they can collect the money, knowing that they're never going to get reparations passed. That's one thing that I know that they do for sure, Narcan and Cobra. And it's something that I know that they are currently doing and they have done in the past every step of the way.
Yeah. Coming from the historically black collegiate world that I love so dear, that I earned my first degree from. I love historically black colleges. That's what I saw. I saw these Pan Africanist types in administrative positions, and it looked like some type of controlled opposition. Did y'all hear me? Controlled opposition.
Are you sure? Because I,
You
I think I finally figured out what Pan Africanists do, so we may not even need this space because I think I finally figured out what they're good for, okay? Listen here. I'll make you holla for masala. Ooh-wee. Punjabi fashion. Rolling through the streets of Mumbai. I'm your only guy, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I won't do that again.
Nika.
No, that was great. Can I speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Go
Hello
ahead.
to the host, Professor, co-host Nikki, co-host Wani. Um, what do Pan Africanists do? They stop any Black American agenda. They're specifically for blacks. And who do they really work for? The immigrants, all immigrants. That is. And yeah, I land my plane. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, it started out real innocent with Martin. The story is actually very fascinating. One problem with our community is we don't know our history, and that's not an insult to my brothers and sisters. I'm a historian, went to school for it, and I don't know the fucking true history. I'm just now learning the real history on Twitter. Come on now, these books are full of bullshit. But the truth is, when you go digging, you find that Martin Delaney uh, started Pan Africanism, and he was best friends with Frederick Douglass. They were best friends, And Frederick was more like, well, let's talk about it. Black Americans we're an amalgamation. Some of us are more heavily connected to African lineage. Some of us aren't. I'm right in the middle. My mom is indigenous to this beautiful place I'm driving through called Alabama. And if you look at a picture of my mama, she don't look none look African about her. But my dad, is from that boat. We trace his lineage to the slave trade. But a lot of us, the reason why I'm saying that is Frederick Douglass was mixed. He was kind of along the lines of most of us, like had white lineage, had black lineage. And Frederick Douglass didn't believe in no go back to Africa movement. He's like, fuck that. This is my homeland, America. Martin Delany said, you know what? No. We need to get tied to Africa. The question is why? The reason why is Martin Delany had Gullah Geechee lineage. Martin Delany had direct lineage back to Africa, which is beautiful, but I don't. Most of us don't, right? So, and I'm not dissing Africa. I love it. I view them as distant cousins, but I'm not going to go running somewhere that don't have nowhere for me to run to. Like, if you want to make this mother Africa, my question is, why is it any country offering us dual citizenship free of charge? You know what I'm saying? That's a whole nother issue. Go
If
ahead.
that's Mother Africa, we need to call CPS, because what this woman kicked us to the curb, left us for the sharks, didn't care what happened, and then when they found out that we got adopted into a decent home, tried to come over and live with us and outdo us in our adopted home. It really? No, we have a lineage here. This is our land now. Too many generations have passed by. You don't see Native Americans trying to go back to Siberia. That would be crazy. They don't even want to go to Canada with other First Nations people. They're here. They have a lineage here. We can trace them through their language, through their linguistics, through their behavior, even through some of the jewelry you see. You even see jewelry that you could see in a Native American, on a Native American reservation. You can see that in Central Asia, and you wouldn't believe it. It looks the same. So we know where they came from. Their DNA tells on them, their faces tell on them, their origin stories tell on them. So we know where they came from. We don't have that background. We have a shattered background that has come together as one lineage. So back to Pan Africanist. We know that Marcus Garvey promoted the Back to Africa movement, but he was aligned with the Ku Klux Klan and a Methodist preacher named Ernest Severe Cox, and they were white supremacists. And I think, if I had to guess, when looking at his letters, he says the fact is that the modern Negro is lazy, good for nothing slumberer, and some other things he said, like we didn't have the right to ride on the train because we have nothing to do with the train, shows that he's a foreigner. He doesn't know that we built the trains, that we invented things for the trains. Um, so those statements created a Garvey must go campaign. But what I think was going to happen is that Garvey was going to team up with these white supremacists, get all of us to go over to some godforsaken place in Africa, start another colony, and he was going to be a leader over there. That's all he wanted to do, is be some leader. You saw his little peacock hat, his little general outfit he started wearing. He wanted to be the leader of us. And all of these
A fucking
foreigners, yeah,
dictator.
of foreigners, they always want to come over here and tell us what to do, and they just floated up on a raft.
But Marcus Garvey is a great example, Wani, because he couldn't do shit in Jamaica. They fucking kicked his fat ass out of Jamaica. He came around us and rose
Yeah.
up. So Marcus Garvey is an excellent metaphor for fucking Pan-Africanism, what it became. Actually, Marcus Garvey is a metaphor, is a fucking living example, a walking metaphor for what how our movements get co-opted. Going back, Dr. Martin Delany rather, didn't have any bad intentions. Dr. Martin Delany had Gullah Geechee lineage. They still, in South Carolina, they still speak African. They know who they, you know what I'm saying? They know who they are. I don't have any of that lineage. Like Wani said, most of us are shattered. So Pan-African, in my opinion, Pan-Africanism from its inception never really applied to all of us. Now, Dr. James Smalls has Gullah Geechee lineage, and Dr. James Smalls, it applies to him. And that's good. I'm not hating on that, but you have to respect me. So from the beginning, the Foundation of Black American was cut into two camps. The larger camp was more along the lines with Frederick Douglass and myself and Wani. Shattered lineage. Who are we? Well, we're bits and pieces of a lot of different things that came together as one, which is beautiful if you fucking think about it. And then there were the rare groups of us who were shattered, but still, like Professor James Smalls, knows a little bit, know a word here and there, knows a little dance here and there, knows a little African lineage. So we need to respect that. But and it was flowing pretty well until Marcus Garvey saw a fucking opportunity to come over here and get involved in our movements and Pan-Africanism, co-opt that shit and turn it into a goddamn operation to destroy us. I was in one of our brothers' pages. I don't know. I'm not gonna say his name because I don't know if he wants to be identified. But one of our brothers on X's pages, and he educated me. He told me that Marcus Garvey's wife was to the Daughters of Confederacy. Do y'all know who those are?
You breaking up. I should have just launched it, but just give it a
That's
second. It's
breaking
breaking
up a
up
bit.
some.
Oh,
Breaking
okay,
up a
yeah, yeah. Oh, y'all go ahead. I'm in the
I
mountains.
wanted to first let me say hello, brother,
Hey,
Professor and Wani and you know, Nikki the God. But Marcus Garvey's attire is influenced by the Knights of the Templar. When you go back in history and just start looking around, so Marcus Garvey is taking some of the things that he was teaching and some of the images he was blasting out to the world, and was basically signaling that he was, uh, I guess, inspired by a lot of Masonic movements. But it's not just him. The Nation of Islam comes out of the Moorish Science temples. The Moorish Science temples, uh, they deal with a lot of mysticism and mystery school teaching as well. So you'll find out that a lot of these organizations that you think just they're dressing like something and it's weird, isn't it? It's inspired by more ancient bodies or orders of mysticism. And I'll just leave it there.
I can believe that. Can y'all hear me now?
yes. Um,
Yeah.
okay, what makes you think that something he was doing was mysticism?
Well, his dress alone is he's signing, he's signaling to
Mm-hmm.
you that,
Mm-hmm.
well, to the
His
people with the
outfit.
knowing eye and ear that that's what it is. And so I would like to know who his teachers were, and that would probably tell me more about Marcus Garvey. It's the same thing with Noble Drew Ali, you know, and he got involved with the Theosophical Society of Madame Blavatsky and her cohorts, Katumi, St. James, and I can't remember the other one's name right now, but they all represented a branch of modern day religion, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And her sitting as the chief counsel uh, is a witch, you know, and
Well,
the teachings that she got, she took from the ancient world, mainly Africa, and so basically you find that a lot of this stuff has its roots in uh, ancient knowledge, ancient different orders and teachings. So this thing of masonry, it always come back up because the masonry comes out of the mystery schools of Egypt. I know a lot of us like to sit here and think that the Jews, not the Jews, but the Europeans run masonry, but actually the Europeans got it from somewhere. The Greeks got it from somewhere. When you read George G.M. What is it? A book, A Stolen Legacy. He goes in and basically describes uh, Pythagoras, Aristotle, Socrates, and he can pretty much show you how a lot of these people took and stole the things that they got. But not only that, that most of their life is a mystery. It's almost though they don't exist, or a lot of what they did didn't really happen. They took it from somewhere. So
Well, we know that they did because they wrote about it. They said, I went over to Egypt, like
there
point
you
blank.
go.
I went over to Egypt and then I came back with this scale for music. So we know where they got these things from. And they bragged about it because they were less white supremacists at the time. They would just say what they were doing and where they were going. And at this point, we have to, just look at their history and move forward. Let me read this. When Malcolm X was trying to be a Pan African, he said in 1963, some African leaders at this conference, which was called the Organization of African American Unity, have suggested that they have enough problems to be concerned about the Afro American issue. Another person said that in 1969, he said, you Black Americans are not Africans, and we have enough trouble trying to help our own people. This was Dr. S.O.O. Onabango, and that was in the Pittsburgh Courier. Now, I'm not sure what made him say that, but these people have been telling us publicly and how they feel. And we just keep having stars in our eyes, talking about braids and dashikis and trying to connect to something that doesn't want us connected to it. There's nothing to connect to. If you really know the anthropology of Africa, it's just a lot of people shifting around before they were colonized, before they drew lines around them and shattered their tribes over um, their tribal ranges were cut by different countries. So some of the Batwa people have to live in multiple countries. They don't have passports, they just pass through. And that that's been going on before. So it's not just being colonized that makes them have this scatteredness. There's no way they can say what their roots are. So if you say, well, what are my roots that I need to get together with? They don't have an answer. That's the part that I've been asking the question since 2020. You need to find your roots. What are they? Our roots are here. That's the problem. We're never going to find them. That's just a piece of a puzzle. Africa is not a country, it's not a collective culture. It's a piece of something that could be connected to you. And I promise you, you don't want to find those roots because you're not going to like them. You're not going to practice what they practice. You're not going to eat what they eat. And so it's best to move forward and not move backwards because they have their own problems. They're not a sound population. You would be happier if you found out that you had Aboriginal roots. If you said, "Oh, I just discovered that I have an ancestor from Australia. Let me boogie on over to Australia and say hi." You'd be better off doing that because at least they have a sound culture in northern Australia where they will take you all the way back 80,000 years of their um, time in that area. They can show you some roots. They can show you something. And yes, they have a population that's heavily mixed and they've been decimated by colonists, but they do have roots. They do have a culture. And you're not going to want to do that culture either. You're going to get tired and you're going to want your comforts, but at least they have something firm for you to grab onto. And with Africans saying that it's nonsensical, these people have been colonized, they've been Christianized, they've been Arabized. Even a lot of their architecture is influenced by Arabs. A lot of the architecture, there's nothing to grab onto. If we try to grab onto their roots, we're just going to be grabbing onto some Arab guy. We're going to be grabbing onto some white Jesus that they like. We're not going to discover them because they've lost themselves. Professor? Anybody?
Yeah, Professor had to step away for a minute, so he's
Oh,
really
okay.
not. It looks like he's in here, but he's
Okay.
not in here.
Okay. So, one of the issues that I have is that there was a Pan Africanist group called American Society of African Culture, and they were a collective of Black Americans founded in 1957. They were caught working for the CIA, instantly exposed, and all of their membership collapsed. There was another one, uh, similar issue, where they were propped up by the CIA. Now, why would white supremacists and what do white supremacists and Africans have in common? Hmm. They both want to deny the transatlantic slave trade. They both want to pretend like we immigrated here, hostile immigration. They both want to pretend like we're not part of America. They have a lot in common. Pan Africanist, you're not American. We're not American. How are you going to live with an attitude like that? Really? How are you? If you feel like that, carry your ass somewhere else. Really, carry your dumb ass somewhere else.
Facts.
How can you live your life with a nasty, stupid ass attitude? With an attitude like that, the first thing on your list to do should be to find some place where you do feel like you belong there. Because you can't live a life in a country talking about, I don't like the flag. Oh, that flag represents this. Oh, I don't like that. While everyone around you is flying flags that kick them to the fucking curb. Literally flying Haitian flags in my fucking face while they have been kicked to the ultimate curb by every country that has come over here, has literally kicked them in the ass.
Flying Nigerian flags when Nigeria was created by an English white woman. Back to the co-opting. If y'all look up Milana Karinga, he's a very famous Pan-Africanist. I'll never forget something Suge Knight said when I was a child. Suge Knight was talking about a certain somebody I'm not going to mention, but he said basically Suge Knight said when somebody goes to jail for somebody gets charged with a real heavy crime and they don't do the time, you got to be suspicious of them. That's what Suge said. And I thought about that when I was teaching at an unnamed historical Black college, and I found out the whole history curriculum was based off of Miley Karinga. And I said, why in the hell have they got this dude teaching our children their history curriculum? Well, what I found out is when I did some digging, Miley Karinga went to prison. He was faced with like fucking, what was it, mutilation? Like just some wild shit. Like he went, allegedly, he freaked out and did like some,
What?
yeah, like
Yeah,
Did this
he
on a
used a
woman?
soldering iron on the cooch of the woman
there
that
you
they
go.
had bound and tied
And
up in the house
yeah, that
over
is
there in
wild.
Inglewood. This
That's
happened in Inglewood.
wild.
You're right, right. He's from California. And
Wait, say it again. Say it again. I couldn't hear what you said he
They
did.
had they sat up the night before doing a whole bunch of drugs and alcohol, and at some point in time they tied up a woman in a room and isolated her, and they used a soldering iron on her cooch. Um,
What? Why?
they he just
Ever
he
heard of
has a very
penises?
sinister side to him, and I
While
believe
I understand your sentiment, it is important to note that the transatlantic slave trade occurred 500 years ago.
what
I
was that?
just removed her. Don't come up here. Don't come up here playing. Somebody speaking. Next time, wait your turn.
Yeah, go ahead,
so
bro.
so so even with the sentence that he was given, he didn't even get close to even completing it. And then when he got out, he was allowed to be a professor, and he married a Hispanic woman who goes around acting like she's a black woman
Wearing an
with a
afro wig,
Hispanic
yes.
afro. Yeah,
And check this
yeah.
out, brother.
And he teaches over there at Long Beach right now, Long Beach State, I
There
believe.
you go. And check this out. But thank you, brother. You said it clearer than I could. When he was released, what did he create for our black butts? He created Kwanzaa, a alternative to Christmas that's rooted in Mother Africa. That motherfucker's allegedly an op.
Come on out and say it. Don't nobody want to say it. People keep running with this Kwanzaa fantasy. I get so annoyed every time I hear people
I've
talk about
never
Kwanzaa.
celebrated that shit
I
because
ain't
I
never
knew about him.
celebrated
I
that.
never celebrated it.
Never.
Wait,
Me
Oh,
where
oh,
neither.
is it
oh, Kamala
located?
Harris. Kamala
He,
Harris,
he
her
Oh,
family
she has a
celebrated it.
he's the
long,
reason
long
people like
history of
Bunchy
doing it
Carter were
every
killed.
year.
You know, him and
Listen,
that US organization with the wars they
what's
were having with the Black Panthers and
what
more of black minded students.
what
Yeah,
state
he's the reason a
was
few
that
people
founded?
died.
What state was Kwanzaa founded in?
Not sure. It was all ambiguous to me, but it was prescribed to us.
Because I felt like I didn't have anything to do with it. Go ahead, Black Native.
Hey, Professor Wani and Miss Nikki the God. Yeah, did y'all bring up the Uhuru movement? Have y'all spoke about that yet? This is another pan
You
Educate
go
us.
ahead and tell us.
this is another Pan Africanist movement. And I pulled it up because I remember seeing them about maybe 4 years, about 5 years ago. And I noticed
Yeah,
the people that were behind them dressed in dashikis were white folks, and this is the Pan African movement. But I'm gonna read something real quick. The Uhuru movement, the Swahili word, what I'm gonna is an American socialist Pan Africanist movement founded in 1972 and led by the African People's Socialist Party, whose chairman is Amali Yashlita. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But check this out. It said the leader of the Uhuru movement, including its chairman, Omali Yuhida, had been convicted in U.S. federal court of conspiring to act as foreign agents of the Russian government. So these are the people that, uh, these are the Pan Africanists. Why are you conspiring with the Russian government? Literally, and why do and they don't want to go into the history of who's funding the Pan African movements. A lot of these people that are behind it, not only are they the FBI, they're also other white liberal organizations that are behind all of these Pan African movements. It's white liberals. So I
And I'm glad you
it
said that
like
because
absolutely
a lot of
is.
let me
people
just
think that the liberals don't do damage, but they do.
yeah.
Bro, let her let
Certainly.
Yeah,
let
and
her finish.
every time I'm in a Pan African space and I bring up the Uhuru movement, everybody acts like they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. When literally you can go on YouTube right now, pull up that when they were sitting there on, I don't know what was happening, but this was about that wasn't even 5 years ago. I'm gonna say about 3 years ago, and they were having some type of conference. Something was going on with this group. And I'm looking at all the people behind them. You have nothing but white folks behind them. And I'm like, oh, they go the white liberals. And I'm going to land with this. Pan Africanism was created by us. We all understand that. We're the only group of people that have made a land comfortable for other people to come and lay and nest. Black Americans, no other so called people from the diaspora has made a country where we can go, having a booming economy and be able to live comfortably. We're the only group of people that have done that for all the other people from the diaspora. That's America. Nobody else can say that they've done that. Not a whole group of people can go to a black country right now and their economy is booming and we don't really have to do too much but just come and nest in it. Just buy a house and the economy is already straight. They can't produce that. And we've done it. And it was a sister that was speaking about all the different uh, things that they say come from Africa, like their food, and it doesn't. And she brought up the cassava because that's their main where they make fufu and all that. It's from the cassava plant. That comes from here. Rice. That
Yep.
comes from
Peanuts.
India and China. So I want
Peanuts were brought, peanuts and tomato sauce, which they use in every dish, and in jollof rice comes from here.
So what are their natural
Um,
what actually have they grown that naturally comes from there? Because it seems like it's being
Barley.
imported from everywhere else. And
Because their rice
right, banana.
species, because their rice species was very nasty. and they were making things like the vegetable one pot dishes with barley, and the French decided to import rice from Indochina and then told them how to make jollof rice, which they of course ran away with. That's a whole fact. That woman made jollof rice under French colonists telling her what to do.
So that's not of their creation, Miss Juan?
No, it's not. You want me to go read about it more?
Tell it. Let them tell it. That's theirs. And I just
Yeah, I
say one
know.
But
thing, and
They
I'm a.
don't know. They're very low information individuals. All
It's
they
a
know is word of mouth.
it's an easy Google search. I had to Google rice came from either India. It's a debate between either India or China that was imported over there to Africa.
They
Now
said Indochina. They said Indochina specifically.
I made a comment on their parade that's happening in New York City, the Nigerian parade, and I said, yeah, this would look so much better if they did it at home. Oh, they was butthurt in my comments. I had over 71,000 views. I
What?
look, I ain't even respond. It was too many people. I said what I said. I said what the fuck I said. You would look so much better waving that flag that the professor said was created by an English white woman in your country instead of coming over here and having some type of pride and independence in somebody else's land that you had nothing to do with. So look,
they coming and co-opting our shit like Juneteenth in Memphis. That they turned that into they put Ghana all over the Juneteenth flag. I was like, man, that has nothing to do with, and I got in trouble for that. But I'm defending something that belongs to me. Juneteenth belongs to me, and you don't put anything on Juneteenth that doesn't belong there. You know what I'm saying? It's a co-opt.
Yeah, they just had some type of Nigerian parade. Was it last week? And I'm like, why are they doing all this celebration for Nigeria and away from their homeland? Why don't they go to Nigeria and have that same celebration? You didn't see us over with Juneteenth flags waving that at their little Nigerian celebration, even though they should not have been over here doing that. We're not over in their country waving our flags. It's weird. Their logic of it is weird. It doesn't even make sense.
Well,
that's the post that I was speaking on, and I showed my mother the post yesterday. I said they butt hurt, and she said, well, it's true because she brought it to Juneteenth. She said I heard that they were at the Juneteenth and they was over here selling shea butter and had their flags at our shit, So
well, the whole idea of Pan Africanism is such bullshit that, and it's something that's perpetuated by us because a lot of the Pan Africanists nowadays they want you to believe that there's some type of ideology that's global and worldwide. And one of the things that I always fuck them up with is if you truly believe that, next time, and the dude Brandon, what was his name? The one that used to fall out with Tariq. Tariq made the puppet of him. Uh, 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 I can't think of his name right now, but they went to court.
Tommy Sotomayor, or
No,
was
no,
it?
they went to
the
court. The
Pan
big guy.
Africanist dude, the fat dude that got
Yeah,
Oh
the
my
yeah.
he made
God,
the
Gucci Bear.
Gucci bit.
So anyway, I
The guy
asked
with the
him, and,
hips?
and he was
Yeah.
stuck. I said, "What I need you to do next time you go to Africa, because he always goes to Kenya, is if you land in the bush and you ask an African to give you the definition of Pan Africanism, and he tells you, then I go along with it." And he just stopped right there because he realized that this is something that's not ingrained in those people. This is some bullshit that's ingrained in us. That's the ideology we push. The only place on the African continent you're gonna find somebody talking Pan Africanism is maybe at a university and in a class where they're talking Pan Africanism, but it does not exist in their societies as a whole. This is a fraudulent ass ideology that they've been pushing over here on us, and our people been the ones perpetuating it the most. But there's no return on it because there's no corporation, global corporation, even local corporations that's based in Pan African ideology. Nobody makes money from it. Nobody creates anything because of it. The only thing they do is lecture and debate other black people with this. It's more of an educational thing than anything. The only thing I can give
What
Pan
they
Africanists,
co-opt our grant money too.
well, I can give
They
them credit
intercept our
for
grant money.
I can give them credit for some of the scholarship that they've created. When you start talking about a Delaney, when you start talking about John Henrik Clark and certain people, Okay, they were big in education, but it never transcended to the business world at all.
Okay, one of the aspects of Pan Africanism is that we feel the need to defend Africans from their crimes against humanity. And we feel like because they're us, because we were disoriented, we felt they were us, and we have to defend them and say, oh no, it was just the white guy running around the west coast of Africa and deep in Central Africa and even down to Southeast Africa and around South Africa. He was just running around grabbing people up without any type of established trade networks, when in reality the trans-Saharan trade was going strong with Africans. They were selling people to Arabs, quotation marks, but when you look at those Arabs, tipu tip, they're Africans. They're of African descent. So we don't even know what an Arab is because these people play peekaboo with their ethnicities. So they can just pop out and do what they want whenever they want. They do the same thing with Moors, Berbers, and Arabs. So anyway, they were going at it strong, dragging people up and down. There were no white boys there. It was all people of African descent doing the trans Saharan slave trade. And then the white boy got involved in that a little bit. And then next thing you know, it was a trans Atlanta, Atlantic slave trade. So, with that being said, we've been trying to cover the cat poop in the box for them so they don't look bad when they know that they're guilty. They're 100% guilty in all of their countries, and they can't play the game that, oh, those countries didn't exist. Because that's what they first thing they said is, oh, we don't know who those were. It was just some powerful guys. It was just a hand. No, it was a whole system of people that cooperated in it. It wasn't just some random guys. It was big empires, families. All of the main empires in Africa were involved, from the Congo all up and down the west coast of Africa, all involved, including Queen Nzinga. She was involved too. She just didn't want her people enslaved and was arguing with the Portuguese about it. Anyway, they all cooperated. And if they want to use the excuse that, well, those aren't the same countries, then please explain to me why you sue to get your stuff back with those countries, because that's what they do. They sue and they petition and they ask the West to give them their art back, to give them their stuff back, to give them money because they were stupid business people during the transatlantic slave trade and they didn't make any money and they got tricked, which is their normal a go-to excuse. They didn't know, and the white boy was, pulled a fast one on us. No, he did not. They just don't know how to, they don't know how to charge prices for things. That's the problem. They just sell anything
I,
at
s-
any price.
I saw that last time I was in West Africa. When we went to, and I've said this a thousand times, I'll say it 2,000 more. When I went to, now isolated my dad's side of the family. My dad's side, his dad his family came from that boat, that transatlantic slave trade boat, and went to North Carolina. So I know that for a fact. My dad's a historian. We did that when I was a child. So I go over there to the castle, one of the castles where we were sold from, and they fucking charged me a fee. And I'm thinking, I used to work at the Smithsonian when I was studying at Georgetown University. Smithsonian is world class. I have yet to see a museum as beautiful as the Smithsonian. Now, there's a lot of history against us, but I'm gonna leave that alone right now. That's another space. But it was Smithsonian is world class and it's free to every human being, right? That stumbles along. Why did I get charged to go see a slave castle that my dad's side of the family was sold from? One. And two, why did they charge me again? Because I had a camera. They said, no, 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 brother, we need to charge you for press price. Like, you can see pictures of me walking around there hiding my camera. Like, what I noticed right away at Elmina, which means the mine, castle, or slave dungeon, whatever you want to call that place, is that it was surrounded by a neighborhood in all directions for miles, as far as you can see. And I thought to myself, wow, there was complicity in the transatlantic slave trade, because if these neighbors wanted to, they could have rose up and just broke us all out of that motherfucker. Think of if a slave castle shows up in Detroit. Brothers out the hood gonna rise up and break the children out, man. They didn't express us the same courtesy, therefore they were complicit.
What's going on, Professor Wani, Nikki? What's going on?
Hey.
I did want to speak to the Uru thing that came up before it gets too far away from us. So over here in Philly, there is a Uru event thing that they do like monthly or so. I was a part of it to some degree as far as um, because I have a business, Morocco Oris, and I used to do some vending out there. So they do it once a month, but for the longest time, black locals and a lot of locals in the Philadelphia area would go to the same park as well and vend their stuff, whether they were doing business stuff or making crafts or making foods and things like that. We would be out there with the Mormons. The Uru people, they would have their events, like I said, monthly, but eventually we would start to see these white people coming around and they would be asking for permits and what have you to try to get us on board to start paying for us being out there freely. And mind you, like, we've been out there for years, only to find out that the Uru people were a part of it. So they were pushing these white people to come around us to get us to pay for it. Eventually, they brought it to the Philadelphia legislative, and they basically got us kicked out of the park to vend freely. And now we need to pay Uru in order to go out there and do some vending. Also, the thing is this: I don't know what they're doing now because I left, but before they really got involved, when I did their events a few times, they only do cash only. So these people are openly just doing everything through cash, which means they can just do things to some degree, possibly free of. I don't want to say free of audit, but you can get away with a little bit more, possibly. So doing these cash only establishments, wouldn't be in good faith, in my opinion. Um, Also, there was one more thing that I wanted to bring up. Oh, there's like a propensity that you'll notice too, going around on Twitter and TikTok. You notice that a lot of people are trying to remove Black Americans not only from the country but from our flag because they want us to remain as hidden figures. And they don't want us to be a part of America because they want us to be equivalent to them. They want us to be equivalent to immigrants because I think in their warped mind, they want a situation where if we were ever in a situation where black people had to be removed, they want to be able to say, hey, these niggas are African too. And be able to take us with them because they want us to have this mindset that we don't belong here. But that's where I wanted to go with that. Peace.
Thank you. Now, when I looked up that Aruhu, it said somebody was like very, very upset. And they messaged me and said, they didn't get in trouble. They dropped the charges. They did this and they did that. But the truth is, they didn't. Okay. And the person was very emotional in my inbox. And I tried to look it up. I mean, this is a nice person, but they were emotional about it. And those people are connected to Russians. Russians did get in trouble for doing things with them. And those are facts. Why is this random Russian person all in your face? I don't know what they're doing, but I know that they're doing something against Black Americans. They may not know what FBA is, they may not know about ADOS, but they're doing something negative to my group. And that's all I can tell you about it because they said that really they were actually online sowing dissension. And I said, were they trying to make people vote Democrat or Republican? And they said both. They're just out there doing anything, saying anything, trying to cause confusion and chaos. So they have a very, very nasty plan, and they are definitely aligned with white liberals and Russians and anyone else, and they can't get out of it.
Well, as far as Uru that I know of, right now you can go on YouTube and there's a channel. Search for Uhuru. There's a gentleman by the name of Dynas Demir who is behind the channel. Okay, this same Dynas Demir uses his search for Uru as a way to sell tours to Africa every year, sell T-shirts, sell books. You know, it's a money making ploy for him. His YouTube channel has over 100,000 subscribers, and wherever Uhuru pops up, you always seem to find shady shit. And so Dynas Demir, about 3 or 4 years ago, about 4 years ago, had a gentleman that used to come on his show. I cannot remember this gentleman's name, but he was a Haitian. Okay. But he was selling the we all black, we need to build up Africa, we need to this, we need to that. Y'all need to donate, send money to the GoFundMe and this and that. And so what happened was he kept talking in this big master community that he said that he had planned and all of that turned out to be a big ass farce. And people that he was supposedly doing business with had started to expose his ass. And the whole time he was presenting himself to be somebody that was on the continent of Africa, he was actually down in Colombia chasing white Colombian bitches with fat asses. So these niggas,
Finesse.
these niggas
Dinus?
Dynast Amir, old
Oh,
dumbass,
yeah.
right there in Atlanta, Georgia. He's from Sacramento, California originally, and he moved to Georgia as a college student to play football. Dynast Amir is not a very smart individual if you pay close attention to him. He brings a lot of guests on to do the talking for him. Dynast just wants to make the money. But see, Dynast has never fully been accountable for getting himself involved with this. The first name of the guy name I think was Lou. uh, 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 I can't remember his name, but I'm gonna have to go back in Dynast in his uh, in his archive and see if I can find some shit. But I used to be in his live chat and telling them that old boy was full of shit. Oh man, they would kick me off. They would do all kind of shit. But eventually, Dynast took a hit because a lot of people started to look at Dynas like he was a fraud. But we got this contingency of sisters who had wet cooch for Dynas. So, you know, they're going to stick with him regardless, even if they lost a few $1,000s fucking with him. So if you go over there right now, search for Uhuru, you'll see the channel exists. He been posting as recently as what, a week, 2 weeks ago? So this Uhuru shit is it's like it's a name brand within Pan Africanism. That's all that is.
I used to watch Diners because he's going to all the different countries in Africa and over there talking to the natives, and they all accepted him, and he was trying to get us to go. That was the whole thing, get us to go back over there and help build up Africa. But I wanted to say this about the Uhuru. I'm talking about the actual leaders. Go and go to YouTube and type in Uhuru. They had some type of press conference, and that's when I got kind of put on to them. It's about four years ago, and all the people behind them were white people with dashikis. I kid you not. I'm like, what kind of fuck shit is this? So yeah, no Pan African wants to address this movement. None of them. Every time I bring it up, what's the other Pan African that's up in these spaces and he be going hard? Not Shaw. It's another.
Sure.
Not Shaw.
You talking about that
What,
Joker name,
Trinity?
the Prince of Pan Africanism?
He's from New
That's
York,
Umar.
He's just silly acting.
and I brought that up to him one time in a space, and he just like flew past it. I said, let's talk about that movement, and he didn't want to address it. So
No, they don't like to be accountable at all. Once they fuck something up, they just keep on rolling and act like it didn't happen.
Man, that Prince of Pan Africanism dude was up in one of my spaces. I was hosting with Robbie
Hello
Blue,
guys.
and I had him blocked because he said some shit about me. I was like, man, I don't know fucking know you, and I blocked his stupid ass. But he wanted to join to see what me and Robbie were talking about. So he was like, Robbie, I keep trying to join, but Professor has whining like a man up there whining. Professor has me blocked. So he came with his alternate account. And his alternate account was like a Freudian fucking slip. His name on his alternate account is Agent. And Robbie was like, Agent, that's very
That's
interesting.
him. Prince of Pan Africanist.
Hello
Oh,
guys.
Nikki.
Come on, Love I
Hello
Am.
guys. How are you?
Hey,
Nice to
what's
meet
up?
you guys. I'm from Gambia, West
This is a guy
Africa.
begging for money.
I
He just
lost
did it
my
the other night in
family.
another space.
I live in only and my siblings. I am black. Please.
Black. Show me your birth certificate where it says that.
Pardon?
When were
You
you
said you were
born?
I'm
black.
from Gambia. I'm from Gambia, West
What,
Africa.
what day were you born? What month and day?
Pardon?
What month and day were you born, sir?
I don't speak English very well. I'm not going to school. I'm
Well,
just
then we
speaking
can't
short.
understand you
Were
begging.
you born in January? And what were you born January 1st, sir?
I don't understand that.
I don't understand begging. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Pardon?
I said I don't
He's out. I
understand
removed him.
begging.
I think it was Love I Am next.
Yes,
Or Kanye. I forget. Which
I
one do y'all
don't
think?
remember.
Love I Am was ahead of me.
Come on, Love I Am.
Hey y'all, this
Hey,
this is a wonderful title. Lord have mercy. I just went off on a room the other day, and just contrary to belief, that's not what I care to spend my free time doing, is going off in spaces. But I realized there were some very weird things at play. Choke had a room. It said Black American Negroes in the title, past, present, and future. So naturally, us being in there, that makes sense. But I noticed that the room started filling up real fast, and I had all of these people blocked, and they were Pan Africanists and Africans. Okay, and one thing that I find to be very weird is that with that, what I had said to the room was, if if we Black Americans, if we all made it a requirement where we just all in a critical mass did our genealogy, and we literally just, as a requirement, preliminary, to have any of these discussions, we just all did our genealogy, we would trace ourselves back to where? Here, correct? And so with
Facts.
that being said, and that would be a start. So I'm just saying, if that's just the requirement that all of us had to bring to the table, was that we all just did that preliminary work to have that conversation. But then, okay, then we start finding how far everyone got back on average. Maybe some are back further than others. But then, now let's pull up those maps for that time period. Why the fuck do every time we have these dumb conversations, we are pulling up a map of Africa? Like, I literally, I want to see what was going on this side of the world when when we had these discussions as well. I can't rationalize why we know that the work we need to do is our genealogy, but then we are willing to just hop over to the other side of the planet to have a conversation. Like, I can't even rationalize that anymore. And what's happening is that when we do that, we don't have enough information to even be able to have that dialogue. So what's happening is the Africans and the Pan Africans are one upping us, because at least in a conversation about us, an American centered one, at least we have our genealogy, at least we have those oral narratives, at least we have whatever information is documented in places like the professor was talking about, the Smithsonian. At least we have those sorts of things. We don't have shit to bring to an African centered conversation. And that's what's happening, is these Africans, they've gotten too comfortable, and they like to deal shrewdly with us concerning the information. You always hear Pan Africanists tell a story like, yeah, and then the white man came and captured. It's like, wait a second. You got, like, literally, they just want us to not have any information, and then literally have this whole African centered conversation where we don't have, it leads to a Paya coming in the room. Shah, the other night I was just listening. Shah sounded like he was having a hard on hearing, because he had an opportunity to speak. It's like he was getting off on um using the term African American, referring to us, and having, so what was happening in another space, I was listening anonymously. It was Buffalo space, because she tried to rehash the conversation from Choke's room, which her and Hilda are not equipped to even have such discussions.
I called both
Why
their ass
the
ops
fuck
the
are
other
they
day.
facilitating a conversation? Come on now. Like, let's be honest. Are y'all afraid to block them? Is that what's happening? Because, like, literally, I don't understand. Are people afraid to use their block button
I've had
at
them
this
blocked for
point? I don't
years, at
understand.
least
Like,
5 years.
you
I
don't
mean,
have the range. You don't have. I already made a deal with myself last year. Don't answer any of Hilda's questions because you have to be an idiot to even answer
this
the damn
person is a
question.
Morgan knockoff. That's why you're having
I told her
problems.
ass. I said, what's it to you? Why you want to know? Because I'm writing a book right now on our origins, and she asking for my scholarship. I said, who the fuck are
Right.
you? She
The
didn't say shit
fuck?
back to me.
Oh my
What I
god.
almost
And that's what I'm
what I almost asked her motherfucking ass is what type of foundational Black American girl is named Hilda? God damn it!
right. Looking like a whole wetback. But anyways, I'm sorry. They pissed me off, but they couldn't get off what they were trying to get off in Choke's room because he was at least bringing it back to this talking point of fuck this Pan African stuff that you're doing. So then they rehashed the conversation Buffalo did yesterday, and pretty much it was Shy and all these Africans that were able to speak. And I'm like, oh, they get off on this shit. They get off on having this managerial conversation where black Americans we sound really pathetic trying to be in conversations with them because you're like fighting for your life trying to defend your own identity when we literally have an entire movement where we have access to the documents, access to the paperwork, just like you just asked this dude, what is your birthday? Do you even know your birthday while you're in a room while these people are allowed to facilitate a conversation where we're being dealt with shrewdly and they're acting like we don't know ourselves? Do you even know your birthday? Why are
Love,
you managing a conversation about us? That is
love, I am.
crazy.
All I ask from them before I interact with those two again is I want a recent picture. I want to know what you look like. That picture I got is recent, within a year, and my picture in my background with the Dolce & Gabbana sneakers on, that was taken a couple weeks ago. Can I have a recent picture of you, Hilda? Can I have a recent picture of you, Buffalo? I want to know who I'm talking to.
Right. And in a nutshell, all I'm saying is that Black Americans, it is our due diligence to do our genealogy, and we need to have our conversations. They need to be American centered. From our vantage point is literally tracing our ancestry back, figuring out what was transpiring over here first. Even if it leads to over there. I'm not even trying to relegate a conversation to a particular perspective, but what I'm saying is our vantage point should not be knowing that we have all of this paperwork and documentation, glossing over that and just hopping over to Africa and having a conversation with people who they don't even know their birthdays and they seem to get off on taking advantage of what information and access we do or don't have. So that's my point, is that we need to literally just shift power back to Black American people, and this is about us, and no one else should be trying to manage conversations concerning us, which they've been authorized to do from the vantage point of pan-africanism, which is a just it fundamentally overvalues Africa in our story. I can't even make sense on why I would be listening to a pious thick ass accent when I'm trying to have a
Yeah,
conversation about
but
my own people.
Shy is a bad faith person. You can't take him serious. He's 61 years old and he spends his time right here in this country while he talks all that African shit. He's made his living. He bought his home right here. He was educated here. So you can't even take people like that serious. You know, when he got into the Hebrew people, I brought up the Habaru people, and the conversation stopped there because he never heard of them. So shy. If you know what you're talking about, Shy will shut up real fast with you. That's one thing that I know about him. Don't take Shy serious at all.
Well, one thing I will say, and Love I Am said something real powerful. I don't know if she caught on to what she said, but basically, if I could sum it down and paraphrase what she said, don't tell me about my fucking history as a foundational Black American when you don't know your birth date. I spent a good bit of time in West Africa, in Ghana and Togo. It was beautiful. I'm gonna congratulate her. It was beautiful. But what I learned right away, I went as a professor with some physicians and some other scholars, a couple professors and one school teacher. And we were trying to help them build a library.
You're breaking up.
You're breaking up, Professor. Just we're gonna let somebody else go until you get back into
Yeah.
range. Sorry.
Oh, I wasn't breaking up. Somebody hit mute. It wasn't me. Yeah, somebody hit the mute
Oh,
button.
I
Yeah.
don't know what happened. I didn't hit it.
No, it wasn't you. It's somebody like
Or
the usual
maybe it was.
suspects. Yeah, but all I was saying is, what I noticed in Africa is their books were from America. So they didn't. What I
Mm-hmm.
noticed about West Africa was more colonized than we know more about our history than most West Africans do. Now there are cul-de-sacs of secret societies that know the history, but those are the motherfuckers who sold us. I'm gonna land my plane right there.
Well, you're gonna have to go to Credo Mutua and people like that. It's gonna be within the shamanistic class where the real knowledge is at over there. It's not gonna be with the average everyday person walking around the continent.
Yeah, they're very short on facts. Who is next, Lou?
Hey, what's up, y'all? Nikki, what's up?
Hey.
Wani, what's up? Professor, what's
Peace,
going on? How
Lou.
y'all doing?
Hey.
Hey,
Hey.
so I wanted to talk about the Marcus Garvey thing, right? Because I was reading some books and studying the dude and stuff, right? So I come to find out, like, obviously he got inspired by Booker T. Washington's book, Up from Slavery, that kind of inspired him, and then the book, Where Do We Go From Here? And he read those books when he was studying in college at it was a college in London. He was studying at called Birkbeck College in London. So like I look at Marcus Garvey because if you look at his timeline, right, and the people that financed him all the way to the Back to Africa movement, where he was trying to in the specific country he was trying to go to, uh, every his whole makeup is like Black American. So like he was inspired by Booker T. Washington, was a Black American, and then he got financed. And I never knew this by Madam C.J. Walker, right? So Madam C.J. Walker, she was financing the UNIA, right? And then when he was trying to go back to Africa, because at the time, Africa was colonized outside of Liberia and Ethiopia, and the country he was trying to go to was already ran by it was ran by Black Americans, the American Liberians, who migrated there from the United States um, due to like the American colonization society. So the the country he was trying to migrate to was ran by Black Americans. He was financed by a Black American, and the book that inspired him was a Black American. So I don't think anything he did was actually like uh, his own doing. Like his whole makeup, from finance, from the place he was trying to migrate to even like the book he was inspired. I call like I basically look at like him like how I look at the relationship between Elijah Muhammad and Farrakhan. Because Farrakhan is full Caribbean on both sides, and he studied
Well,
under
let me
Elijah
let me
Muhammad.
give
Yeah.
let me give you a little perspective. Let me give you just a little perspective, and I'll let you finish. Uh, was he inspired by Booker T. Washington, or did he bring his ass over here and view Booker T. Washington his lane as an opportunity to leech off of us? Booker T. Washington had with his industrial education plan was fucking beautiful. We were at our best under Booker T. Booker T said that, quote, the black man and woman we need to have money before we go into these professions. Well, that's not a quote, that's a paraphrase. But Booker T said every black child needs to learn a trade. Black women need to make our underwear, they need to make our dresses, they need to make our suits. And black men need to make our fucking buildings. After that, they can go to medical school, they can go to law school. Booker T had black men build Tuskegee brick by brick. I get emotional thinking about this because that's how they were paying their goddamn tuition. How were girls paying their tuition at Tuskegee? They were making suits for the professors. Booker T had a brilliant idea, but people came at him to attack him. There was a venue by the system. Y'all know what I'm saying when I say the system. The system wanted Booker T's ass, character assassinated, and they used Marcus Garvey's Jamaican ass to assassinate his character along the lines with W.E. Du Bois. W. Du Bois replaced Booker T's ideology of industrial education with the opposite, called the talented 10th, which is still fucking us up to this day. Um, uh, what's that guy? Al Sharpton is a talented 10th. The idea of the talented 10th says that one person shall lead the black community. Where's Al Sharpton leading us? But you can continue, brother.
No, I was saying like he kind of leached off our scholars, our intellect, like with their intellectual property. He leached off the financing. He was doing a lot of pandering to get ahead. Like he was doing a lot of like what y'all call tethering and shit. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you 100%. But I was wondering like, yo, who the fuck was financing this dude? Who kind of like inspired the movement? Like everything that he did was literally inspired by Black Americans. He just changed the name and then just try to create his own
He
movement. And then like
was he was dealing with a lot of white supremacists. Maybe they were bankrolling.
That's what I was going to say. The brother's asking some very dangerous questions, and I'm going to throw a name out there: the Daughters of the Confederacy. Let me say that shit again. The Daughters of the Confederacy is where his wife was affiliated. Marcus Garvey is not a friend to Black Americans. He's an enemy.
And then like the last thing with the Farrakhan thing, right? And I'll be done. I appreciate y'all. Like now, I'm not disrespecting Farrakhan, right? But I'm just looking at if you look at like, all right, Farrakhan got inspired by Black American Elijah Muhammad, right? He's full Caribbean on both sides. He grew up in like middle class, upper class, similar to Marcus Garvey. He went to nice, good schools. So, uh, so he got under Elijah Muhammad, right? And then once Elijah Muhammad passed, his son took over. So then when his son took over, he kind of tried to transition NOI to because NOI was ran by Black Americans at the time. So once Elijah Muhammad died, his son took over and tried to transition NOI to Sunni Muslim. So Farrakhan got under the son, and then he just automatically said, oh, "I'm not feeling the Sunni Muslim," and just went back to the NOI, and he ran the NOI. Like the NOI didn't just give him the reins. Like he didn't get the reins from Black American Elijah Muhammad or the son. He just basically took over. So it's kind of similar, right? It's a dude that's that's non-Black American. He infiltrated. I wouldn't say infiltrated, but he joined the organization, and then he later became the hierarchy of the organization. He was so
Well,
it's kind of
I'm gonna stop you right there. I don't know enough about Louis Farrakhan to make a comment. I'm studying him. There are some similarities, but I don't. My official stance on Farrakhan is I don't have an opinion yet. But what I will say is I like some of Farrakhan's speech. I like his bravery towards the system of white supremacy. I will say I like his bravery, but is coming out. Um, I'm doing studies on that right now. My jury's not out on that yet, but I do like some of his. I think that Farrakhan has showed a lot of courage in attacking this system and throwing it right in their face, and in fear of death. So,
I
no. I
see a
agree. I
lot
agree. I
of
yeah,
agree.
I see a lot of contrasting statements from Farrakhan. I agree that he did confront white supremacy. He did follow our outspokenness that the rest of the diaspora does not want to do. So he is in line with that. And I do respect some of the programs that Nation of Islam puts down. I just disagree with, the religious aspects, but I do like the product that they put out. I do like the way that they inspire people to eat better and the way they present themselves in the world and their level of intellect that you encounter. So I do respect that. But I did see that he was recruiting and trying to get Mexicans to come into Nation of Islam. He was trying to get
Oh, they
other,
are there.
yeah, they're
I've
there. They
been
got to
I've
be
been in
there.
I've been among them when I was in
Yeah.
Cincinnati hanging out.
So
They had a class and
they don't have an, they don't understand our lineage. That's the problem. They don't understand it and they're not going to understand it because no church or religious organization that is trying to appeal to everybody and is trying to get brown people to be members is going to go along with what we're talking about. You're going to have to understand that. That's why celebrities are quiet. They're not going to say anything because that's going to alienate their Caribbean fans. And they know 1.3 billion Africans are squatted over there in Africa that could be fans. They don't care who downloads their music, they don't care who the fans are. They're not going to alienate them. So we're going to have to do what we have to do and not rely on these people for support.
yeah, we're turning inward. I love it, and I would go so far as to say it's not our lineage is not for them to understand. It's none of their fucking business. It's ours. And I love my lineage. I don't want another one. Go ahead, Station.
All right. I just want to say that as far as like the question is, what do Pan Africans or Pan Africanists do, and who do they really work for? I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, and um, of course, Malcolm X was born here, and the reason why that is because his father moved here after a lynching here. A man named Will Brown was lynched, and there's a famous photo where his body is burned and laying on the ground, and there's a group of white people crowded around smiling. And that's actually what brought Malcolm X's father here, because Malcolm X's father was a Pan Africanist and was a Garvey Pan Africanist. And the thing is here we do have Pan Africanists here, but it seems that what they do, they do things locally, and they mostly do things locally for children. So any like positive things that I have seen from Pan Africanists, it has to do with whatever they're doing where they locally are. Um, but as far as the nation building aspect of Pan Africanism, that does not exist. It's a lot of lip service. What I've experienced, even in my travels, I've been all over Africa. And I do run into African Americans that do live in Africa who consider themselves as Pan Africanists, but they basically have just carved a life out for themselves. And usually that's rooted in like tourism or trying to get, Black Americans to come and visit and spend money and whatnot. But other than that, other than, just speaking out against, white supremacy or saying that we need to come together and that we need to, whatever, there's really no real movement at all. Physical movement or any real nation building that they've been talking about for over 100 years. And I'll land my plane there.
I agree.
I
I
think it.
think
Go
it's
ahead, Juan.
emotional. It's emotional. We just want you to agree to do this. So that if you see an African in trouble or you see a Haitian eating a cat, you have to agree to say they're not eating the cat. Okay? If someone accuses an African of selling slaves, you have to say no. The white boy was chasing everybody down with a butterfly net. You just have to agree and go along with the narrative and the lies that Pan Africanism is built on because they didn't have correct information. We do have information now, so there's no need to move on into the future in ignorance, which is what a lot of people want to do. They want to be in pseudo science and argue with you over it.
Yeah, and my thing is, if you want to be in a fucking fantasy, that's on you. Hey, Gucci to you. You know what I'm saying? But the problem I have is at the same time, these elite foundational Black Americans are praising Africans and trying to throw up smoke screens and defending them. They are not defending foundational Black American children. I feel like I'm the only one going to Walmart trying to protect little Jermaine while he's selling Snickers. You know what I'm saying? The police coming up on him. Like, we're not defending them. We're not. I mean, when I taught in middle school, I had babies. I had little girls sleeping up under bridges, man. Where were the Black elite then? Go ahead, Black Native. And then Andy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say there was nation building, and that was on our part. We're the only group of Black people out of the diaspora who have created a lane due to our nation building where everybody from the diaspora can come eat off of. We're the only ones. So if anybody was doing nation building, it's us. It's us. Nobody else can say that they have. They, like you said, there's a couple of Black Americans over in Africa trying to do the hustle and get us to come over there to help them. But we've already established economy over here where they could come and have a parade and wave their flag. We did that. That's our people who've done that. And so, yeah, I'm not ashamed. We don't owe African people nothing. I'm sorry, we just don't.
Yeah, that's true. But when I was talking about nation building in regards to Pan Africanism, they're talking about nation building in Africa, is what they talk about. not over here. But of
Yeah,
course,
yeah, I
Yeah,
get what
yeah,
you
you're
exacerbate your
saying.
resources and help them build that shit up.
right.
Right, right,
So it's about helping them. It's
right.
Yeah,
does
yeah,
it
it
always
always comes
ends with
back to
helping
them.
them, right?
Just
But
like you got
they
a bunch of black people over there right now who live with the fact that they get overcharged and cheated, and they say, "Oh, it's just that's life in Africa."
but they don't
Okay,
want us to get reparations. That's the kind of minds they have.
Bingo.
Just like a freaking bird. Too stupid to think ahead and say, hey, if I take this piece of bread, I can dip it in some water and catch a fish. Oh no, I have to eat the bread right now. So their knee jerk reaction is to attack us, act like we're some other tribe that they need to throw a monkey wrench into so that we can be broke and then they can keep begging us for money. Really? That's how your brain is functioning?
Well, their brains were broken by that machine. I'm not defending them because we got shit. I got it worse. Look at me. Do I look African? What you're looking at is rape, ladies and gentlemen. My big mama was raped on the mountains in Aniana, Alabama, by a slave master, and she couldn't do a goddamn thing about it. Where were the Africans then? Where was my goddamn backup? You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to hear that shit. But what I will say is Africa was more colonized than we were. They went over there and fucking wrecked that shit. They wrecked it so good that they are still building Ghana right now. So I'm saying that to say if your homeland is wrecked and it needs help, fix your own shit first before you try to tell me, like a Pia try to tell me who I am. He don't know who the fuck he is. He probably doesn't know his birthday. We're gonna go to Mama Jersey and then to Andy.
Hey everyone, I'm outside, so that's why you're gonna hear background noise. I had to leave out today, but it dawned on me like 6 weeks ago that Pan Africanism. I knew it was a scam, but I'm like, why don't Pan Africans tell us to go to them little Caribbean islands first? They're supposed to be black led, right? Wouldn't it make sense for us to do trade within the Caribbean first with these particular black led nations? And I'm like, you never hear Caribbeans telling black Americans, come back to the Caribbean. Why? Because they don't fucking want your black American ass fucking there. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to travel thousands of miles, not to just travel 600 miles to go to the goddamn Caribbean, where everything is way cheaper. So it's like this Pan African shit has been a scam on black Americans, and now it's just used for immigration. They're just using us for immigration at this point. And they're getting upset that we've just figured out the game plan now. What they were talking about in their homes, we just figured the shit out now. We are a separate tribe to you. We are not your people. I don't owe you shit just because you have black skin. It's like, what have you done for me? You've never done anything to me. You haven't even offered me refuge in the Caribbean. It's fucking right there. Like, you haven't even offered me refuge there. So it's just like, we're giving this shit up, and everybody's afraid that black Americans are getting giving Pan Africanism up, and that we're just gonna become just as tribal and look out for ourselves like every other group does. There's nothing wrong with black Americans just looking out for other black or fucking Americans. I'm not trying to harm anybody else. I'm not trying to do anything to anybody else. But my people group comes first. I'm not putting Africa on the altar. Y'all have yet to show me anything within the 60 years that y'all had so-called independent nations, because they're not really independent. A lot of those nations are under the, what is that, the Commonwealth of the fucking UK, to be honest with you. They're not independent whatsoever.
Bingo.
They need to knock that shit off. You answer to King Charles at the end of the fucking day. So let's just stop that first of all. But anyway, Africa's
well,
not on the altar. Y'all have yet to develop a first world nation and show us how it is done. You cannot show me how it's done. It's like you're just a whiner on the corner that I know that I don't want my life to end up like his. So I'm gonna do everything in my power to not end up like the whiner on the goddamn corner. That's all Africa fucking is. Pan
but you
African is
know what,
done. It's
sis?
over with.
Fucking France has admitted that without the support of the 14 African countries they control, France is going bankrupt. They have nothing. Everything they get is on the backs of African
Facts.
countries. Dr. Arikana is on YouTube, and she has about a 30-minute to 45-minute discussion on this. They don't even get to keep their money in their banks. They send all of their money up to France, and France redistributes it to them as they see fit. These people have even signed treaties that don't allow them to trade with other countries right next door to them. They are fucked up, and so I don't know what you're gonna get out of Pan Africanism trying to work with these people anyway, because if you break a treaty, it's a sign of war. So if you decide you don't want to do what France wants you to do no more, they're gonna bring the nukes in and everything else, and you don't even have a fucking army to fight this shit. So it,
No, France gonna send in the Foreign Legion, which is full of fucking African troops trying to become French.
and the same thing. Leopold never touched down in Africa, and you would think like white people was in Africa cutting off black hands and black feet. Them was black people doing that to other. Them was Africans doing that to other Africans. Okay, so
Facts.
you gotta understand the historical context of a lot of they bullshit, and a lot of these people that come here talking, they don't even have a history that they know about over there. There was a brother named Reggie that was on a Sonetter broadcast, and they were in a little room in this little village. And the brother Reggie was like, he's a Pan Africanist too. And he said, "Do you know what this room is?" And the guy said, "No, I don't know what it is. This is their library." And the brother said, "They don't got no books in here." So what is this library? They don't have shit. They don't know shit. They got a library with no books in it. And this is all throughout Africa. So how are a group of people who happen to get over here or to Europe or anywhere going to teach us and tell us anything? It makes no sense. The people that get here and be talking, they just be talking. Because when you really hold their feet to the fire and really question them, you find out that a lot of Africans are really not that intelligent. They perfected the art of scamming, cheating, lying, and pretending, which is basically what their cultures are right now. So
It's a
Well, why?
different
Why? Because
culture.
that's that's European culture. That they're doing what they were taught,
Yeah.
and they don't know how to do anything else. That what is Dr. Shazad Ali says Europeans do tricknology. It's tricknology. That's all they know, and they come around talk around me. I tell you, educated don't mean a goddamn thing. The school systems in America, from kindergarten to law school to medical school, are more about
I can't hear
can
you.
hear you.
Yeah, that is a cultural thing. A lot of places around the world have a rip-off nature. I've noticed that all
It
across
is.
working with people from the Middle East, Israelis and
But
Arabs.
let me ask you
All of
something,
them.
Wani. Have you ever noticed when you meet Africans here, the first thing when they start talking about the education and stuff is, "Oh, I'm waiting for my transcripts to arrive from my country." What they never tell you is those transcripts will never arrive, and that's because they are not accredited institutions that will be recognized once they get here. But they will swear to God that they're waiting on their transcripts to arrive.
But
The United States government has told them motherfuckers that shit that you got over there is not valid. And nigga, if you want a degree, nigga, start from the bottom here. And they don't like to tell you that.
But why most of the schools that you
all right.
have are from our people? Like Little John has two schools over in Africa. Oprah, well, we seen what happened with that. They fucked that shit up. She put $20 million when Chicago was shutting schools down like their mom was going bad. She decided that Africa was more important, even though she made her money here in America, had her studio in Chicago. African children were more important than the children in Chicago, and that school went to shit. So all
Well,
of the,
they couldn't molest all the children here without them going over to the police. So it's easier to do it from
And
South
that
people
studio
Africa.
in
ain't let them
Chicago, they wouldn't even
watch
let black people up in the building, from what I hear.
I'm just saying
it.
they did get molested.
It's the truth.
Yes.
They
We're
got
gonna get a couple more slides just
um
so we're gonna go
professor
with
professor was breaking up. What he was trying to say is that this is just part one of this conversation. We're going to be back at a later time for part two.
You're gonna leave?
He no, he's letting a couple people
not
go.
yet.
I'm sorry, Professor, you were breaking
Yeah, I
up.
was breaking up.
Who's
Oh
next?
yeah, I'm in the Appalachian Mountain Plain. Yeah,
Who's next?
Hi, I just wanted to go back to the question of lineage,
I think it
and
was Lou Fax.
was
Can
it
you hear? Can you hear? Omri.
Omari? Yeah,
Amari
Um,
say,
can y'all hear me?
Oh no, I can't.
Omari, can
"Oh
you drop
brother."
down and come right back up, and then Lou Fax go next, and then after that, Omari can speak. Go ahead, Lou Fax.
Okay. All right. So I got a couple things I want to say. All right. So like far as like so when I see this is not even just black immigrants. This is I mean African or Caribbean immigrants. This is like mostly all immigrants. So when they come to America, right, they kind of get rich or like the ones that get rich and they send like set asides to their peoples in their country, right? So I was thinking like if you look at like the black Americans, right, like Oprah. If you, I just seen Kyrie donate to a school in Nigeria, and he donated like I think 150,000 to Congo, someplace in the Congo, right? And I used to be thinking like, okay, I'm pretty sure all of these dudes, right, can probably trace their family back to the deep south, right, due to the Great Migration. Why don't we send the money back down south to create some institutions that's owned and controlled by us? Like, why do people just automatically think, okay, as soon as I make it, obviously a lot of us do give back to the community, but I don't understand why a lot of like black Americans who make it, right, black elites, like even the new black elites, the first thing they think about is giving their money back to Africa. It's like,
That's a
yeah, I'm sorry.
brainwashing. I used to do the same thing, brainwashing. I ignored the United States of America. We have poor children in the United States of America. We have poor children in the United States of America that are hungry and homeless. And my focus was on everybody else. So I'm glad that I got refocused 4 years ago.
And then my thing is like, see, like my mom's side, they from the deep south, Bible Belt, Greenville, Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, right? And I be going back and like, cause you know, like inner city poverty is one thing, but you go to those, you know, Mississippi, the poorest state in the United States, and that deep South poverty is a different type of poverty. Like that shit, damn near on the like I wouldn't say third world country, but like it's it's on that level of poverty in some rural places down south. And the fact that we put and this is the thing about Pan African, in my opinion, it's about like because it's hard to really change people's perspective, like the people that's really born into like the Pan African ideology. But like it should be at least priority. Like if you're gonna be a Pan African, at least make some modifications. Make sure you take care of your people first, right? Your ethnic group first in America, right? Your family, your grandmama's side in the deep south, and then if you want to do something for the continent, cool. But I I don't understand how people skip over their own people that's suffering down south. Like, cause it's so much egregious shit going on down south that
Let me
don't get
throw
the
you an
mainstream
alley
attention.
bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said what can we do?
Well,
We got people right down south.
I'm I'm gonna answer that. Can you hear me? I'm gonna answer that. Well, and because it's a really good question. Why do we skip them over? Wani told you it was brainwashed, but that's what's more important than the word brainwash is the why. That's what I do for a living. I look for the why behind it. The why behind it, and this is my conclusion. This is my hypothesis: is these elite organizations they have think tanks, which is what we need desperately. We need black think tanks that don't need to be on the fucking internet. And they thought about this. If they played chess with this, they came to the conclusion that one day foundational black Americans are going to have money, and we need to get ahead of them to keep them from putting money back into their own communities like other groups do. And the best way to keep them out of that is to seduce them with this ideology of guilt, which Wani says over and over again, it don't fucking belong to us. If you want to, we don't feel guilty. We're the goddamn victims, but they hit us with this ideology of guilt. Feel sorry for the starving kids in China. Feel sorry for the kids in Africa when the Africans are the ones who sold us. You know, charity. My grandmama used to say charity starts at home, and that right there. If we turned around and start having sympathy for our own goddamn children, who I serve, who are out on the street, going to high school, living up under a goddamn bridge, and dressing nice. You know what I'm saying? sleeping on their clothes so they press, they got a crease in them. You don't know they on the street because they still got swag. If we turn if we turned our efforts towards our own children, things would really start to change. But it's a brainwash campaign, y'all. That's what it is. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the beautiful Appalachian Mountain Train. I pulled over so I can get three more callers. We're gonna go with Love I Am, brother, and then Stacia, and then we're gonna continue this again at 8:30 Central. So go ahead, Love I Am.
That was nice, Professor. This room was great space, and I look forward to the new one. But yeah, they're not more intelligent than us. They're more malleable. One thing that made me start not liking them, and I don't have a problem saying that, is because they are not. They don't think critically. They're not critical thinkers, and so here we are, Black Americans, and we have a track record of challenging constructs that don't benefit us. And that's what we're going to always do. That's who we are. It's never going to not be the case. And then you have these people, we're over here challenging this pseudoscientific race construct. We're literally saying what was going on during these time frames. We want to peel it all back, expose everything. And then you have these peon brains coming over reinforcing the very things that we're trying to challenge. They're reinforcing those constructs. So I have a peaceful life. And I work for a black, I'm an insurance agent. I work for a with black people. So I literally have gotten my life down to being able to regulate the amount of irritation that I'm willing to experience on a daily basis. And then I get on the app and this dumbass Pan-Africanism where literally the conversation just circumvents back to us being African, not being able to prove it, and then dealing with abuses from people who are underdeveloped as far as their home country is concerned and underdeveloped codependents as far as their mentality. And I can't, it's literally the spirit of insanity to continue to engage with these people.
Well, I wanted to throw the brother a little alley oop. He said, "Why don't we do for our people, especially in the deep South?" And I want to take everybody back to a school in Mississippi called Piney Woods. And I remember Piney Woods is a boarding school. It was started in the early 1900s by foundational Black Americans. And they kept reaching out in the early 90s and the mid 90s for Blacks to help them with donations, help build up their school, they wanted the help. And you had all of these celebrities with all of this money running around with kente cloth on, dashikis and all of this shit, and ignoring black people here to push Pan-African ideology. And so, like I say, if the brother is out there still, just look up Piney Woods, and if you want something to help, uh, get into helping that school right there, brother. That's a boarding school that's been around for over 100 years. That's a Black American establishment.
Well, I can see, I peeped the game here. They're trying to make us invisible. They're trying to commit ethnocide on us right in our face. And I was reading the description of something, and I think it was what was it? It was one of our cuisines, and it said, I think it was Louisiana Creole, and it said, oh yeah, it was Louisiana Creole. And the description said it was inspired by Africans and French people. Africans and French people. So they want to say that our identity, when we cooked that food, all the gumbo, we were African and the other people involved were French. And so that means we have disappeared. That's what they're trying to do. That's what they did with soul food. Oh, you were on the plantation and the white man made you cook that food. So it's not your, well, they know white people didn't cook the food because they can't cook now. I mean, have you seen some of the food over in Australia? Wow. One of these days I'm just gonna throw some of their unique food stuffs that they brought over to Aboriginal land and let you see what that's about. They can't cook, and it doesn't matter where they go, they're not going to be able to cook in any of those continents. Anyway, uh, back to what I was saying. Um, They want to squeeze us out. Now we know the white boy can't cook, so he didn't make soul food. And the white people's version is called Southern cuisine, where they butcher soul food and they cook through they what do they say? We saute the greens. Okay, you go ahead and saute some collard greens for 15 minutes and get some stomach medicines ready for yourself. You don't know how to cook, so stop it. So they want to squeeze us out of that one. And then the African wants to just lie and say that the Nigerian roots are in that food. How? You don't have a cuisine. There is absolutely, positively zero pre colonial cookbooks to even show you what they were eating. But we know what they're eating when they're not around the colonists, when they're on those in those villages. It's not jollof rice. Okay. So the jollof rice and all this little array of foods that they have, that is their public face, as they call it. That's their public face. Their statement that the age of consent is 18, that's a public face. That's not actually what's going on. They don't actually have a cuisine. In fact, a lot of countries just came up with a cuisine so they wouldn't feel left out. It takes thousands of years. Places like the Caribbean that have Greek food and Italian food, those places have been building that cuisine up for thousands of years. They've been on the Silk Route. They get the spices, all of the things that they had access to make the food taste the way it is. That was built up for thousands of years. Curry is almost 5,000 years old. And we created two cuisines, Louisiana Creole and soul food, in just a few hundred years. And these other people took forever to get those cuisines. So the African is one of the many people in the world that do not have a good cuisine, just like Russians. No offense, but Inuits, you don't want to eat what Inuits eat. You don't want to eat seal blubber, okay? You don't want to eat the other foods that come out of that culture. You don't want to eat what Russian, you don't want the Siberian food, you don't want Russian food, and you really don't want Scandinavian food. There's a lot of people that can't cook. Eastern European food is basically tastes like stale food. So we have done excellent to come out with two succulent cuisines in a few hundred years compared to these people. And we got these suckers pulling us tug of war. We created it. No, we created it. Oh, let's make the Black American disappear. Well, I'm not going to disappear. You're going to disappear before I do. And I'm going to make sure of that. Hey, Marie.
Hey
Omar.
there. Hey y'all. Thank you for having me
Hi.
on. Uh, Not to backtrack too much, but I really wanted to go back to the point that Miss Love I Am brought up about the lineage and the DNA testing. I just had a question for the room because I haven't actually gone through this process myself, but I seem to recall listening to a broadcast that Tariq was putting on, and he's brought this up several times in his broadcast when he's talking about him getting his DNA tested, and he talks about him having, sometimes tethers will attack him about being really African or really Nigerian, and he'll say, no, I got my DNA tested and I have some Nigerian ancestry, but most of my lineage traces back here to like the 1700s, and it got me thinking. And because we always hear this about Black Americans when we go on Twitter, we see the tethers and the trolls and even the white supremacists trying to Africanize us, talking about our DNA goes back to Africa. And I'm wondering, is there not a huge confirmation bias in this lineage testing system? Because I seem to recall Tariq saying that there was a problem where they don't test for genotypes and genetic identities in America. They only test for genetic sequences that come out of Africa or China or Europe. So like anytime you get your DNA test back as a Black American freedman, it's always going to talk about what part of either how much Asian or African or even European DNA you have, but they specifically don't even compare genetic markers from like anthropological samples of like old carcasses and bones found in the ground and the soil of America. So maybe Professor, could you talk about that? Do they
I
even
think
test?
they
Do they even
do.
test? Do they even
Yeah,
test for
yeah, they
Well,
do because they'll
like I'm
say
talking like
which
that's
thousands
a
and
families.
wine
thousands of
question.
years because they can tell us about thousands of years ago in Africa, but do they test for
No,
that
they
like
do.
Amari, I was
okay
not talking about a spit test though.
They
When
do.
I said your genealogy, like your paper genealogy. I mean
yeah
where
yeah
you list your ancestors, your family members, and you
right
trace them back. That's what I was
hmm
talking about. And
okay
so everyone in this room, you trace your ancestors back to America, but then you
right
be dealing with certain time frames. And I just find it questionable that they never show us what was going on during that particular ancient world. They
yes
just want
yes
to hop right over to Africa. And I'm
right.
saying, even if it, well, you wind up over there. But my point is, why would we not start over here? We're always just hopping straight to the African
Yeah, that
discussion.
exactly.
Well,
That's my
well,
point
well,
too.
ladies and gentlemen, I'm working on a book that's talking about that right now. And what you're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to use this word, but I'm gonna use it. You're looking at a fucking
Yeah,
conspiracy
exactly. It has to be.
because
It has to be.
it's my professional opinion based on data that, and Wani says this a lot, that most of foundational Black Americans are related to indigenous people. Like
Yes,
and I'm not saying no
Yes.
in. I'm not saying that. I'm saying indigenous fucking people.
Aboriginals.
I was
Aboriginals.
watching original, yeah. I'm doing research on that right now. I got some scholarship to prove it, but I'm looking for a harder,
And,
more
and
scholarship. But
and
yeah,
Professor, can I just say
that. But
that
the
go back? Why is the term
go ahead.
Aboriginal so hard to apply to the American, South American, and North American continent? We can use it for Australia, but we can't. They it seems like there's a conspiracy to not use the term Aboriginal Black
And the
American. Like
odd thing about it is that we have proof that these, what I call Proto Austronesian people, have a lineage here because, number one, think about it. They've been in Southeast Asia for 50,000 years,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
They populated, a branch of them went and populated Australia. Another group populated Australia. So they have two lines going to Australia, two. And they brought their Neanderthal and Denisovan DNA with them. Uh, so you can see the paths they took to get here, to get to Australia and Southeast Asia. Then at another point, they branched out and they started. Well, let me get back to this point. Once they were in Australia, they began to populate all of the Pacific Islands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they have proof that they actually got to South America. There's ties, linguistic ties, the same style of canoe building,
Yes.
DNA found in a lot of Amazon tribes, and I have them listed. So they have the genetic ties and they have the physical things and the linguistics. But what happened was that another wave of people, uh, very far after their population of those islands, came. They were lighter skinned people and they were called Austronesians, Proto Austronesians. The Austronesian is mixed more with the Asian, so they're lighter skinned. They came down and then they began to populate those islands, but they call those Polynesian islands.
Right.
The
Right.
Melanesian islands are the
Right.
ones that don't have as many of those lighter people. Sometimes they have the lighter people on there, but not as many, and they have a slightly different culture, but all of the islands are based on that Negrito.
Yeah.
That Negrito
And
is a
those chains of islands
Proto-Austronesian.
those chains of islands they do there is a path from Oceania from Australia and New Zealand to South America. The islands aren't they aren't the distance between them aren't so insurmountable where it's impossible to imagine oceanic people moving from the center of the Pacific around Hawaii
Yes.
to South America around Peru, and but we just
And
don't
I
like.
studied
Yeah.
exactly, and I've studied their shipbuilding. And I said, how can a canoe, do all this? Well, it's not just a canoe. I mean, it is, but it's very ocean worthy. And
Hmm.
I don't want to get in it, but they did get in it because their DNA is on those islands. So,
Yeah, and
I got a quick interjection, ladies and gentlemen. So there's been a change of plan. We're gonna let the page stay up. Let the space stay up. But I'm just warning y'all. I'm about to drive deep in the Appalachian Mountain chain, so I could get cut off. If y'all call me and I don't respond, I'll get to you when I can. So I'm just gonna go on mute. Y'all keep talking and just beware. All right, I'm going on mute.
Yeah, so that was just my main point. I just wanted to talk
mhm.
about the possibility of just confirmation bias in these. Even though Love I Am was talking about something different, and I'm totally on board with what she was saying there. I just wonder, like, is there a confirmation bias in these 23andMe ancestry testing systems where they don't even try to compare DNA from the North American
Well,
and South
what
American
they
continents?
do is they'll say you have family members in Virginia, you have family members in Louisiana. They do acknowledge that you come from a line of people in America. And then if you try to find an African ancestor, you're going to be hard pressed.
Mm,
So that's how it works.
okay, okay, right. But I'm talking like Olmec Empire timelines. I'm talking like way
They
back.
don't test past about 150 to 200
See,
years, bro.
that's what
They
I'm
only
talking
go
about.
back, I
That's what I'm
think,
talking
about
about.
4 generations.
They
So
do say 200 years, but then they also show you people that you're related to from the 1500s. So I don't know whether it doesn't show up
but
on
then they tell you it's
everything.
entertainment as well when you read the fine
But
print. So
I've taken professional DNA tests, and it's fairly consistent with what 23andMe says. You
Mm,
just pick up a few extra, like 1% something in East Africa, where on the other one you don't have any. So yeah, it's pretty accurate, to be honest. That's why, I've taken some professional ones. I've taken several of them. I took one with National Geographic because they had a project, genome project. I took some regional ones that were trying to trace a particular person in my family's line. I
cool.
took several. And then I even put my DNA in that GED match to check the ancient ancestry. So yeah, it's not for entertainment purposes, as people say, but it is fairly accurate. But of course, you know, it's best to have
Got it. Appreciate that.
it's best to have multiple, sources, not just one test. Go ahead, Andy.
Oh, this is so interesting. One of these days, you're gonna have to hold a space just for me so I can listen to you talk about the Austronesians. You know, I get so excited when you start talking about that. So when you do that space, please think about it and don't forget to tag me. Love you. But I want to address Amari on that issue. Amari, have you ever considered that we are indigenous people? However, those people that we were actually related to those tribes have gone extinct. Professor Allen is doing a study on that, and we've come to the conclusion amongst ourselves that we should be called the Tennessee Mound people or the Forever people. So I'll just throw that out there at you, okay? Because really, we say it wrong. We're not Africans. We're indigenous people mixed with Africans. So it's our framing of the situation and how we've been taught to state that narrative. I also want to address ownership of cultural artifacts. Let me explain this to you as simply and as succinctly as I possibly can. If you look at my picture, you'll notice that I am Indian, I am African, I am Irish, I am Haitian, I am French, I am Kenyan, and I'm Congolese. So that means those things that belong to those cultures are also mine. I am a descendant and an amalgamation of all those groups. So it's not that French has influenced me, it's that I have a enslaved ancestor who came through Tennessee all the way to Louisiana. Some kind of way he was from Haiti and he was enslaved there, and all that. So everything that we that goes into our
How
culture.
did you
It's
find out about the Kenyan part?
okay. I knew you were going to ask me that. I knew it. My
Because I'm
grandmother.
just studying the
I'm glad you.
transatlantic slave trade, and I'm just wondering how many people have that in there.
Okay, so I'm gonna explain to you really simply. I'm always talking about my grandfather who was enslaved. You know that, right? So, my whole family, those mound people, they knew of their African admixture or ancestry. Because the man I'm talking about was red haired and blue eyed, but he did not call himself mixed. He called himself what we call ourselves. That's Negro. And they knew their African people. We've had, they're all dead, of course. The people they would come over, their relatives would come over. So these were like our pure blood African cousins or whatever. I have no idea how they kept in contact. I just knew that they did. And you remember I told you he told us specifically that we were not African. So it's just really strange how we I was brought up. I know that we're mixed with African, but to claim African, it was a different story. And we weren't ever taught that we were, although we knew some of our relatives who I guess they were not enslaved in the United States. Okay. So some kind of way they kept those connections or they found those connections. He was a very odd person. I come from some really odd people. The black people that I come from in Oklahoma, they were all educated, and I call them black people. They were really black Indians. Okay, that's what they were referred to. Now, remember I told you my family hated Indians, so they did not add the Indian part onto it because they detested Indians. I'm from Oklahoma. It's a long story why we hate Indians. I won't go into that. So I know, like these admixtures that we are, but I still refer to us as indigenous people. I just want to shout out to Amari about that. That a lot of the tribes that we actually came from, they no longer exist, darling. And the reason why they will not link us to that is because clan Africanism. Now you notice what I said, not pan. I said clan. Clan Africanism is a ploy to denationalize Black Americans. And the government needs us to stay psychologically discombobulated with an ambiguous sense of statehood so that we'll play into that. However, people sitting on this call like me who are indigenous and who are, I call us the mound people, you're not going to separate us from our land. We'd rather die. So that was one thing that I wanted to bring up. Now, I'm going to tell you something. In the 60s, Reagan made a deal with the devil and the Koch brothers, whom I consider Satan's children. And one of the things that he did was when they decided to allow African or Africana studies to be introduced into colleges, they immediately removed a lot of funding. Now, I bring that point up to say that Klan Africans have always worked with Europeans, white people, to hurt us. That is their purpose. That is one of the reasons why you will find that most Klan Africans are put into our institutions through Koch influence, and you need to look this up, KLCH, Koch influence, to subdue us. It is a sign up denationalization plan. So when people say, what do Pan Africans do? Pan Africans work to denationalize Black Americans through a sign up plan funded by the government that has been in place since the 19 what 20s or 30s. And who do they really work for? They work with the United States of America because America's had this plan for a long time. They know that we were going to be in war with Russia and with China, and the only place that's resource rich is Africa. So they had this in plan to use Black Americans as a psyop link to Africa to hide their plans on recolonization. The elites in Africa are in agreement with this. So we're still being enslaved and used. Yeah, the last part is just my hypotheses, but we have a lot of bases being built in Africa right now. The reason why we can't get Klan Africans out of our institutions is because they're there to disseminate brainwashing. Pan Africanism is a pseudo ideological. It's a religion, but it's a religion that has cult like aspects. and it feeds into the weak psychology of the Negro who needs a home. And on that, I'll land.
Yes, denationalizing us. What? Who benefits from that? Who benefits from us feeling like we don't belong in America and that we don't have a country and that we don't have any roots? Who benefits from that?
You know, the
What?
irony of that is that when we were rocking the African American term, I remember being like vaguely being grilled about, not what part of Africa do you come from? You don't even know. They would reject us when we
I
tried to
didn't
claim
even,
African
I
American. I
never
remember
said
that.
African American. I
Like
always said black.
well, see, the thing is, when I was younger, I like the one time I wouldn't like. Sometimes I would look at those census forms and they used to say African American, and I just wouldn't feel comfortable signing it. I would say other because I always, even long before I heard about Dr. Claude Anderson and Tariq and the delineation movement. This is like over a decade ago. I just wouldn't feel comfortable, even because I didn't have a word for why I didn't feel comfortable because I didn't. I knew then I don't. I'm not African. There's no part of Africa that I can look at and say, oh yeah,
Well,
that's
it's
that's where I belong from.
insulting
It
because
was always in the back of my head.
not only are white people not saying that they're European Americans, you're putting us on a lower status by making us have um, a prefix. Not only that, but we're not African and they're still European. So if they do their DNA test, it's still going to say your pale ass is 99% German. It's still going to say that. Okay, for the most part, it's going to say you're white, but ours is not going to say that we're 100%. It's going to say the average Black American is 24% European. It's going to show some indigenous. It's not going to show that we're all, even if it shows African ancestry, it's going to have it all fractured all over Africa. It's not going to show one chunk where we can go back to that place. So we have a completely different background than white people, especially the ones that came over in the mid 1900s. They're white. The people that had the admixture are the first people here. And they did mix with Black Americans and against our will on the plantations and because of close proximity outside of the plantations. And the same thing with Native Americans. They mixed with them because of close proximity. Or, and in some cases, it depends on what point in history they raped people out of their minds. But really, a lot of people that they raped died. So I don't know what's going on with the Native Americans up here. It's different than the Native America or the natives in South America. This is a different setup. Go ahead, Stephanie. I think you're next.
Hey, good
Hey.
afternoon. How are you? Okay, I have a question. Are we going to do something about as far as well, let me get to this part first. And I'm glad somebody brought up Oprah Winfrey because Oprah Winfrey is she's the devil. She's the devil incarnate. Okay, I remember when she built the school in South Africa, and she said she didn't want to build it in Chicago because the Black American kids here are ungrateful and we don't appreciate anything. I remember that. Okay, so no, she does not deserve our support. And another thing, there's a video, and it talks about the impoverished children in Mississippi. And in Mississippi, it hasn't changed since like the early 1900s in many areas. So, I'll be more than willing to donate any type of funding to the school that the guy posted up. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And lastly, have you guys seen what John Leguizamo is actively trying to do right now as far as take and hide our history and make it Latino
Yes, I
history?
have seen that. He's
Um,
been very anti-Black American and he's a jealous bitch. He's just a
that's
hateful,
exactly
jealous bitch. He's been crying and bitching, talking about Black Americans need to give them part of the pie when it comes to getting entertainment awards. How do we give you our Grammys and our awards? How would we even do that? I don't understand. But what do we do? Stand on the podium and say, you know what? I want to donate this to some uh, Mexicans that just ran across the border. How do you do that anyway? It doesn't make sense. It was a stupid comment and it's based on hatred and jealousy. And he doesn't even know what his background is. He lied about his little Mexican background that nobody even gives a fuck what he is because it's going to be boring anyway.
And another thing too, not to cut you off. Another thing, um, I appeal to a lot of people here that they have to do something about these Pan African flags flying in American-based black parades. I think something's got to be done about that. That's basically what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Because he's trying to say that the Mexicans built up the West Coast. Well, he can run around and lie all he wants. If he needs to lie, he'll have to put up because he needs to they need to do something to make us feel like these people running across the border are entitled to do that. So that's a campaign as well to make it look like immigrants built the country. And then we pushed back and said, no, they didn't. They came after the country was built. They didn't come over here and build anything. They came over here and got jobs in buildings that were already built. So when we push back, the next thing they have to say is, well, there was nothing going on over in the West Coast, so we'll just say that we built that up. You didn't build that up either because we were fighting you and you were pushed back to Mexico. You weren't here. There were some Chicanos here and they didn't even speak Spanish when I met them. So these people have lost their minds. They're trying to legitimize themselves and they're not legitimate. They need to be put on the first train smoking out. They did not build any trains. The Chinese people built less than 700 tracks on the West Coast, and they were aided by Irish immigrants. None of those people built anything. They are losers. They did not calculate the moon landing. They did not have astronauts. They did not invent 50,000 things. They did not do anything for civil rights. They did not abolish slavery. They did not fight in all the wars. He's going to try to find some white boy with a Spanish name and claim that he couldn't even come up with the lie right. What did he say? 8,000 people did something. We had 500,000 Black Americans fighting for this country, 200 and some soldiers and 200 and some auxiliary. Okay? Nurses, people to feed the soldiers, people to make sure, housekeeping, people to make sure they had their uniforms. We did that,
On the
not
spot,
Mexicans.
sister. I just want to echo. They had
Dr. Short,
750,
let me introduce
700.
Dr. Short. Let me introduce Dr. Short
Hey,
to the
Dr.
space.
Short.
Dr. Short is a scholar, so just we want to give him space to
Dr.
speak.
Short,
If you
thank you
don't
for
mind.
joining us. I'm in the mountains, so I'm probably
Yeah.
gonna break up. But I'm
Yes,
happy.
I pray. Sister Nikki knows the FBI is bothering me, so I hope I don't break up. Uh, I hope I don't break up.
Yeah, they muted. Somebody muted the professor, like
No, no,
randomly
no,
muted him.
no, no. That I may have to call you, Nikki, in a second. Remember, I told you when this stuff happens, there's a reason I can't communicate. God bless this room. I love on the spot. I don't know you, but God, I want to know you. I follow you. Professor, everybody, thank you for having this space. My PhD is in African studies, so I know what it's like to work with Africans for 10 years on a university basis. And and
Same here, bro.
I don't hate anybody. I'm not advocating against anybody, but we are a people. We have the right, and in fact, we have to become tougher and stop caring about what people say about us when we deal with what we have to deal with. This is such a wonderful conversation. All of the people that are saying things, you're 100% right. Keep saying it, scream it until people hear you. We built and made this country. We aren't just some people who came on a slave ship. Many of us, if not most of us, are related to the Aboriginal indigenous people here. I may be maybe half African, and then the other half is indigenous and European. We were here first. Everything is ours. And they know it. That's why they have to lie. Okay? Crispus Attucks is a black Indian. Johnny Mathis is a Comanche black. Michael Jackson is a Choctaw black. Janet Jackson's a Choctaw. We are the original, everything, stolen labor, stolen land, stolen everything. Okay, so let's be, and so everybody's on point here. And they're afraid of us recognizing who we are. Pan-Africanism, oh my, did they cut me off again?
No, we
No.
I
can
hear
hear
you,
you.
bro.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
They can hear you. Just go on. They
Pan-Africanism
hear you. It's okay.
is born in a scam. I'm not talking about people identifying. There's nothing wrong with identifying with folks on the African continent, but we live here and this is ours, period. Nobody gives up land. Nobody comes along and dismisses 500 years of history and talks about pyramids. And I like Egypt and all the pharaohs, but what about right now? The Pan-Africanists have been funded and supported to steer us away from dealing with here. And it's about using us. And so everybody here is right. What I want to say to you is Francis Scott Key, who wrote the Star Spangled Banner. People need to remember one of the first government agencies that the United States had, or at least parastatal agency, was the American Colonization Society. And this is born out of a racist ideology that comes out of the Presbyterian Church out of Princeton University that teaches that black people in America can only be slaves here. And if black people were free, we would overrun the whites and destroy them. So they therefore came up with a thing called providential design, that it was God's will for Africans to be enslaved, brought to America, introduced to Christianity, and then deported back to Africa, where they would suddenly, because they crossed some salt water, would become a great people. But the people within the United States that were black could never be allowed to be free. That is the
Dr. Short,
foundational. Yes, sir.
is that related to the manifest destiny or is that something else?
Manifest destiny, I think, is separate. Manifest destiny is basically white folks justifying taking everything else. This is like a reverse manifest destiny. It's a manifest destiny for black people to take their asses back to Africa. Okay. And for white people, manifest destiny is to take everything that's here. Now that they've used us to build a country, send our asses back, and then they take what's left. It's all about cutting us out of everything that's ours. And some of the earliest mass rallies of black people happened in the early 1800s in Philadelphia, where they rejected the Pan-Africanist agenda. However, they were flexible. If you want to go back to Africa, Mr. Paul Cuffey, a very wealthy black man in the shipping, he'll take you back, but we will stay here. That was what our ancestors said. This is ours. Okay, all these people that have come along later, I don't hate Stokely Carmichael. I knew him. I'm not mad at people, but they are wrong for us. And this is what the Pan-Africanists also teach. All of Africa has to be free and strong before we can deal with America. And I always ask people, who wants to wipe their neighbor's ass when they're itching in their own butt? Seems like you wipe your own behind first. And then you can help someone else. In fact, who would respect you if you were wiping their behind when you haven't wiped your own?
Nobody.
It's like a
Can I,
dentist with his teeth, a
oh,
dentist with his teeth falling out that wants to give you a root canal. Nobody goes with that. They don't have you when you go to a clothing store and you go in the men's department. You don't have a man in rags tell you what suit to wear. So there's nothing wrong with caring about Africa. But home first. Charity starts at home. It's a deflection. And so we need to take care of here. Most people who talk about Africa, they lie to you. And let me be clear. They tell you how empty Africa is. That's not exactly true. Half of Africa's desert. Africa may have 2.5 billion people. If you believe the number of Africans that white people tell you that are there, you're stupid. The same way they'll tell you there's still 40 million black people in this country. They were saying that over 20 years ago. Let's deal with the reality of America. There are two powerful groups, us and the Anglos and their friends. And it's like two babies in the womb, and one baby wants to come out and kill the other. We are a nation unto ourselves, and we have to embrace that. Not so much to dislike anybody, but for us to know who we are. And this is something that's very important. And Pan-Africanism also tells us to reject our connections. But if you ever look at Africans, Caribbeans, they're very quick to hook up with white folk, Europeans, they do, to connect to
Facts.
them. Okay, but take someone like me, and I'm not boasting because I have a vast family. I don't even know them all. We are the descendants of the kings of Europe. I'm not trying to be funny. I like being who I am. But when Charlemagne is my grandfather, as he is to many people, if Charles Martel, we are not just descendants of kings and queens from Africa, but chiefs and kings and queens in America and in Europe and everywhere else. This is why we are special. We are different. When these Pan-Africanists say, well, your music is just our copy, well, damn it, if we're copying you, why does your shit sound so bad? Have you ever been to a church in Africa? Those people can't sing on key. The only place in
Can
Africa
I?
I've been to where people can really sing on key is South Africa. But you know who went over there and did missions work? Black Americans, as quietly as it's kept.
They can't
And you
sing
know,
on key. They can't sing on key, and they can't build the damn church.
And
If
they
the church
can't
leaks,
dance.
when I'm not, yeah, and I don't hate
Can I?
anybody. If you go to an African church, the iconography, I saw more white Jesuses in Ghana than I've ever seen in America.
I'm about
Blackness,
to support you. Stand by. Keep talking.
blackness is us. Our gift to everybody is to figure out what's going on. It's still not clear to them because we're the leaders of all of the people worldwide. Okay, this is why they have Kamswala pretending to be black because that gives her the moral authority to run for president. We are unique and distinct, and it's just a fact. And it's something that the Pan-Africanists keep saying, oh, well, you lost everything in Africa. You have no identity here. You're just an African. And and it is a lie. Go to Africa, and certain people will say, okay, there's some connection, but you're an American. They tell you that in Africa, but the Pan-Africanist here lies. Let me share with you why they lie. There is a group of Negroes here, self-hating Negroes, who they meet the dictators and all this other kind of stuff over in Africa, and they get treated well. They hook up with the same people in Africa that screw the African masses. They get treated well, and what they do is represent themselves as if black Americans have everything that we're supposed to have, and we just need to hook up with them. And it's a scam. They want to use us to get leverage with people to be big shots on the African continent while delivering nothing, the same way our traitor black elites don't deliver anything to us here. It's a scam, and they do the same thing in Latin America, and they go wherever. E. Franklin Frazier, in his book, The Black Bourgeoisie, talked about the international fantasies of the black elite. The black bourgeoisie that hates the masses of us. They want to be white, they can't. So they try to go to places where they can find status. There's a chapter, I think it's called Quest for Status. Pan-Africanism is for some butthurt folks who hate the rest of us, who don't want to be with us, who yet use us for some ideology to try to find relevance instead of taking a stand here and fighting. These same people tell you about Pan-Africanism are the same ones that are against gun ownership here. They're against us having farms here. They're against business here. And they're different types. You can get leftist ones. They don't want any black business, but they're all funded by racist white people. If you look at what happened to the African socialist folk who got put in jail in Florida, they were funded by white folks. I'm not picking on O'Malley, but O'Malley and them are funded by Penny Hess, a white woman. I've dealt with, some of us have been involved with Pan Africanists, and you find out how bankrupt it is. I used to be involved with the Pan African group. I quit when I said, when can we talk about something that Black Americans need? And they laughed at me. There was nothing. This is with Trayvon Martin, everything. You mean nothing happens here that gets your attention? But yet I've got to think about 5,000 miles away, and I'm supposed to help you. It's a scam. The Africans that come here a lot of times want to use us to wage a tribal war against another group of people where they came from. I'm not lying to you. Or they want to somehow they use you to get close to white folks. And once they get to white folks, they don't know you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying something I don't know. This voice that you're hearing, me, you don't have to know me. I'm just a little person, ordinary guy. I'm the person that started the Stop the Genocide campaign in Washington, D.C. and Sudan in 2004, 20 years ago. 5 years before that, I'm the one that started the whole movement to get people in Congress to recognize that blacks were being genocided in Latin America. Me. Okay, not that other people didn't do stuff, but I was effective to get the ball rolling. So I don't hate anybody. Okay, I worked with 25, 30 years ago, the black people in India that Kamala and them destroyed. Some of us have done this global black thing. And what you'll learn is that everybody is jealous of us, don't really want to share or work with us, but will use our energy, our connections for themselves because all politics is local and they're fighting for a local cause. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is us not fighting for our local cause. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Can I jump in? Can I give my
No, not
submission?
yet.
Or
Wait, who is that? Who is that speaking with the accent?
Walker Lily.
No, you can't jump in. Just wait. Go ahead, Dr. Short.
So, and mind you, if we're listening, did I cast aspersion on any culture, society? No. Did I say not work with other people? No. Did I say anybody was inferior or less than anybody? No. I simply said, we've got stuff to deal with at home. We must deal with it. We don't need anybody else in our home business. There's a term that they use in international human rights. It's called co-association. Co-association is when a person or people from another group say, hey, I'm with you. I'm for you on your terms. I want to be in association with you. That I welcome. But this is not what we get from other people. It's one-sided almost always. I never, and I've worked with all kinds of Africans, Uganda, Ethiopia, South Africa, Mozambique, Nigeria, all over. What I want to say to you, the issue is they're not co-associating typically. It's not reciprocal. So when I say to y'all, Dave Chappelle's mother, Reverend Dr. Yvonne Sion, who's a friend, Dave Chappelle's mother created Africare to protect African people from starving to death due to drought and other things. Africare is a non-governmental organization that helps people all over Africa. I don't think that she'll receive a letter of thanks in her lifetime. And I'm not saying that she was looking for thanks. I just want you to understand that a lot of what you may do to help other people abroad, which is right, and you shouldn't stop doing it, but understand it may not be appreciated in the terms of you receiving any thanks or reciprocity. So if you give and you help people abroad, it may not be thank you. It may be, okay, next. And we need to understand that. Not that we have folk grateful here, but we've got to work on here. We've got to understand here. We need to understand that some of the worst places when you talk about traveling is getting visa between different African countries because they won't work together on the African continent. And that person listening needs to just be quiet because it's a fact. This is being discussed in the African Union now. Why won't folks trade and work with each other? Because Africa, North, South, East, and West has tribalism and clanism or whatever, and people do not unify. So when you hear about a country, a European invention, it's got all kinds of people that may have hundreds, if not thousands of years of conflict. You can't just hook up with things like that because we, as crazy as it seems, and I've traveled everywhere, as crazy as it is, we've got ourselves more together than anybody else. The only difference is here, we as a people, Black Americans, have not punished our traitors. We haven't dealt with the traitor elites, the traitors amongst our ranks. We don't have code and we don't deal with people. Oprah Winfrey should be boycotted. All of these people should be punished. They should live in mortal fear that we're going to get them for selling us out. But instead, we celebrate them. We've got some morality issues within us where we worship wealth and success who white people tell us to look up to, instead of looking at, say, someone like Sister Nikki the God. People who serve and are true patriots of Nat Turner and Harriet Tubman and Callie House, the true people, we must create the means to lift ourselves up and to punish traitors. To punish traitors, people, and treason includes being indecisive, people who can't figure out which way they want to go. The day that we do this, a lot of this stuff will end. I will say one other thing. A lot of people like myself that got involved in international stuff, it's no fault of the people overseas. It was because when you tried to do things in America, the gatekeeping, traitor boule people block folks like Nikki, the professor here. We've been blocked in our own country by traitors in our own ranks. They're 100 times worse, 1,000,000,000 times worse than any tether or white person. They sit and block and make certain that we can't have progress. And they must be stopped. We have to do it. When that deviant, distant relative of mine named Steve Harvey tells you to vote for Kamala Harris and to expect nothing, that's an act of treason. I don't give a damn how related we are. We've got to get to the point where you can't be against us and be amongst us, and we are not after you. The reason that we have a lot of these problems is there's no penalty. There is no penalty for genociding Black Americans. We must say, if you do us, we do you.
American children, Black American children, my friend.
You're breaking up.
Yes, you're right. Whether they're killing our children, whether we participate in killing, we must stop the genocide and the slave trade and whatever else that they're doing, and it starts at home. So we need to also start looking for enemies within our ranks. They're everywhere. The mayor of Washington, D.C. is giving millions of dollars to illegals, free rent and everything, and yet people looking for rent assistance, she wants to throw thousands into the street. We have to check these people who put sexuality or class ahead of the rest of us have to be punished. This delineation would start in a matter of days if someone found out if you put being a transgender or lesbian or pedophile or whatever it is, or you got a white woman or a white man or a white grandfather, if you put that ahead of us, we're after you. That's what people are afraid of. The Pan-Africanists are here to deceive us. And many Africans are cool. However, when we're not delineated and organized, how do you relate to people that are all over the place? Nuwapians, more. We got a million different names, Kit. We've got to consolidate for folks to even be able to want to work with us. And when they come here, don't come and ask me for something for you over there. Ask not what Black Americans can do for you. Ask what you can do for Black Americans. I'll land my plane.
Thank you so much, Dr. Short.
I love it, Dr. Short. Love it.
Thank you so much. And who is the next speaker? I know that Professor, are you able to speak and speak on what Dr. Short just said, or are you still in the mountains?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm still deep in the Appalachian Mountain Train, mountain chain rather. Wanda, you have the con.
Understood.
Kind of still breaking up. So that is a tough act to follow. When people speak like this, I really need time to decompress. And people will say, well, why is the room quiet? Is the app broken? Well, we're trying to process all of those things. We see the problem, and people want to handcuff us. They don't want us to defend ourselves, and they want us to get kicked in the teeth and just say, well, the Africans don't know any better. And that's not going to happen anymore, because I can see there's a wave. We can see just by that incident with those cats in Springfield, Ohio. We can see which way this is going. We're not going to sit there and let people attach their failed identities onto ours. We don't eat cats. And we're not going to be told that we eat cats just to cover up for somebody else's bad behavior. And that's what they expect. That's what being a Pan African is. It means that no matter who comes over here and does what, they do it in your name. And you have to pay the price for it. And I'm not paying the price for it. It's not my group, just like I'm not their group. They're not my group. And I'm not responsible for any honor killings, FGM, marrying 9-year-old girls, sacrificing animals, sacrificing humans. I don't do those things. And I see that the Congressional Black Caucus has to address all of those things. Even human sacrifice has been addressed by the Congress. Honor killings, female genital mutilation. A lot of these things don't have anything to do with Black Americans, and that's where all the energy is going. Did you want to say something to
Uh,
Truth?
yes, I just had a question as far as the what the professor said, as far as not allowing people who are, the people of our group who are against us to be among us. And it seems like when it comes down to certain people, we don't have a problem with that. It's like Clarence Thomas, he can never be among us, period. It's like he is just persona non grata. But when it comes to certain other people, like Oprah, like D.L. Hughley, like Steve Harvey, or it's like they almost get cover because of their talent or their status. And so my question is, how would we go about doing that as a collective?
Well, I'm not a fan person, so I don't know how to advise people, but it's human worshiping, and I don't worship humans. So it's a human worship. And I know a lot of people are nervous about Diddy. And you know why they're nervous? Because they don't want the person that they worship to get in trouble. Not Diddy. They might they might say, okay, I get that. But they don't know who else was at those parties. They don't want it to be somebody that they like. But when you don't care about people like that, when you don't worship humans, you can just sit back and watch to see what happens without any emotional attachments. So, yeah, people do keep giving people passes. But then again, what do I expect? Because people do horrible things in this group. People get busted. saying that they're other races, that they're other ethnicities, and we just let them back in the room. We don't ask them, why did you tweet that you were Puerto Rican 2 years ago? Why did you tweet that you were Haitian 3 years ago? We don't say anything about it.
Just let them back in like it ain't nothing.
They just let them back in. Sometimes I think some of this behavior is sexual access. Um, and I don't think a lot of people really are firm about standing on our lineage. I think that as well. So if somebody, I don't have a problem with other people as long as they're honest about their background. But to have somebody around for 3 or 4 years saying that there's something that they're not, and I know one guy, he definitely is Puerto Rican. He's got a Puerto Rican lisp, a slight accent, and everything. And he was running around. He had tweets saying it, and he was running around in everybody's room. And I just got tired of telling people. And I'm not going to tell them, just let the room implode. Wonder why your rooms keep going left. What can you do?
Those people on here, they on here for entertainment. They're not on here for nothing serious.
Hey, Lou. Yeah, sorry that you got knocked down. These apps are something else.
Yeah. We're sorry, Lou. Where is he right now? Is he down again?
It says he's a listener, but I did.
Yeah, because he's still, yeah, because I know he sent me a message earlier, but I'm not looking at my messages now. Yeah, I'll just try to send it for him again, but let me see.
So let me
Go
ask you,
ahead.
where are these guys like Shy and these other guys that are Pan Africanists? Whenever we have these spaces, you notice they don't pop up in here.
Well,
They
Shaw won't because he doesn't like facts. He likes to. He just says
exactly.
that I look at things in the worst way. That's his statement on it. I'm looking at things in the worst way.
When
Yeah,
I just wanted to make something clear before we go forward because sometimes people get mad at me when they see me in these spaces or whatever, but delineation is one of the best things that has happened to me, and it has had to happen. My mother was a scholar coming up. She was a teacher. She spoke multiple languages. So, of course, we were Pan Africanists. So, when you see me speaking a certain way about Pan Africanists, I'm talking about, I hate to say it, and I shouldn't feel like I have to apologize because I'm not, but I am going to clarify it because of a certain role that I play in the community. But I'm talking about people who are constantly putting us down for delineating. And I think nothing better could have happened for us but to delineate ourselves. You know, it shows individualism. I'm when I say that I have an issue with people who are Pan Africanists, I'm not talking about people who are um, supporting reparations and showing up to rallies and supporting what we're doing. I'm talking about people like the ones who we're talking about on stage, and they have shown to be a problem. For me, Pan Africanism is dead. But if somebody want to do that, that's on them. But for me, I can't do it anymore. It's something that I was raised on. It's just I just don't see any purpose in it. But I do know that there were some very smart African scholars that I've learned things from, and I'm not talking about them, but I just can't seem to go get past the fact that we have so many who call themselves Pan-Africanists today, and they have such a problem with us seeking our reparations. I just don't understand that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, they're scared you're going to get rid of the argument. So if some money shows up and black people become happy, all of a sudden we can't have the pissing party on white folk. And I think that's rather stupid because Jewish people get paid and have been getting paid almost 100 years, and they remind your ass every day of the Holocaust. Hitler is on TV every single day on PBS, Discovery, or some other shit. So we never forget they past. So I, I think it's a flawed way of thinking, but that's exactly what they want. They want to be able to hold this thing over white people's head forever, which I think you will still be able to do. But I just need my money to go along
Yeah,
with
what does
mine.
that have to do with our fight against white supremacy? They're not going to stop. I mean, there's still going to be white supremacists, right? Are they going to all of a sudden not be racist with white supremacist ideals in place?
They have some very, very flawed thinking. And I've never seen any of them. I mean, look, whenever we've had any type of revolt or any issues like the LA riots, them wasn't no goddamn Pan Africanists. Them was niggas off the block that kicked that shit off. And that's another thing. It's like when something go down, it ain't never them that lead the charge. I mean, Trayvon Martin got killed. I ain't seen a Pan Africanist or even a nigga in his own family do nothing about George Zimmerman. So
That's my argument too. Why
I
is
don't
he
know
still
what
walking the
purpose they
streets?
serve.
Why is Zimmerman still walking the streets freely? That's my same argument.
This shit is absurd. And I think the tide is shifting on this whole Pan African thing. And you got a lot of black people. They don't want to identify with black people globally. And at some point in time, you got to take care of home. You got to circle the wagons around where you at and deal with your issues. Okay, if you want to be a family later, then you go do that shit. But our issues are right here in this country, and this is what we need to be taking care of. I'm not going 7,000 to 8,000 miles to deal with something in Africa when I got poor black kids right here in Texas I can deal with.
Definitely.
Yep. You make some good points, brother.
Lou, did you want to say something?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask y'all a question. So like socially, right? I understand the delineation, but do y'all think we are still? Because I feel like the most important delineation is like institutionally, right? So do y'all feel like we are still institutionally Pan Africanists? So like if you look at HBCUs and how they allow
Yes, I
all
do.
Africans. You look at in our music, religions. Because I brought up even earlier, like the Elijah Muhammad created the Nation of Islam, but the person who run it now is full Caribbean. Even though Farrakhan is solid, uh, but even our political representation, even the black businesses. If you're looking at the Caribbean-owned businesses, they own businesses at a higher per capita than us in like New York. So I feel I do still I understand the social delineation. I understand, and we always kind of had pride in our ethnic group, right? But I feel like the most important delineation is like institutionally. So how y'all think how can we combat that? Because it's like the
But why do you let
fraternities is
Farrakhan off the hook?
well, I'm not
I
letting them
never
off the hook. I'm
understand why
just
niggas let Farrakhan off the hook. These niggas are teaching Dianetics. The Nation of Islam looks nothing like it did back in the
Well,
70s
well,
and
well
80s.
let's hold on. Let's stay on topic. Let's keep it on topic because that's going to be another room
Yeah,
once I do research. I don't. One,
yeah.
one thing I don't like doing is jumping in an issue that we're not backed by scholarship. So I'm blind on that issue. I would be happy to engage with it, but I have to do some scholarship on it first.
And
But
it's
Lou, as far as your point, I agree with you. We need to take back our institutions. The institution that paid my rent or mortgage and all that for the last 4 years was a historically black college, which was being infiltrated from top to bottom by members of the diaspora. That's why I'm on X. I would try to I represented some of my undergrads who wanted to go to medical school, and a lot of the slots were being taken by diaspora members of the diaspora. But I don't know if y'all can, Wanda, you can hear me. Give me a thumbs
I
up if you can hear
can.
me. I'm just now coming out the Appalachian. Okay, good. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say is let's keep it on topic. And the brother Lou Fax brings up a really good point. Should our first order of priority be to defend our institutions? I'm gonna go with a Roger that. They fucking belong to us. This is historically black colleges were designed and implemented. Well, let's be real. They were implemented like Howard was implemented for mixed children, children who were born out of the lust of slave owners with their property at that time. Chattel is a proper word, but the historical black college system evolved into something to ease the to kind of what's the word, to give us equity in the educational system. So with that fact being said, they belong to us. So I'm with you on that, Lufax.
Yeah, but my question wasn't really because I understand that part, but I'm saying like in 2024, because if you look at like our political representation, right, they're still, I'm pretty sure, 90% Pan African, and then it's like if you look at the influx of African immigrants, the majority of them came in the 2000s, right, during the Obama administration, right. So these people are already in our HBCUs. These people are already Americanized. So I'm asking, is it too late, and how would that go about? Because these people are already in the fraternities. These people are already the political representation,
We have to
and then the
demand an
people
audit.
that's blame.
We have to
Yeah,
demand an audit on all of those legacy organizations, and
I'd say it's not too late, but it's getting there.
it'll expose who's who, and they're not going to want to do that. But that's how we do it. Demand an audit. Where is your attention going? Are you? How many of your projects are focused on the global society? How many people in the Congressional Black Caucus are Black Americans? Because I know there was some dust up because a Black Hispanic or whatever he was calling himself, Afro Latino, wanted to be in the Congressional Black Caucus, and they said no. But they do have them in every other kind of caucus. So it won't be long before they'll be all Latinos and Caribbeans in it. Okay, so if you do an audit and they say, how many professors here are Black American, and we find out that they're all African, we know it's a conspiracy. They're placing people, is what they're doing. They're
yeah, and
placing.
then even from a government contract standpoint, right? Because I be doing like I be investing in like minority businesses, like Black American businesses, right? And I be looking at the like when they look at like there's no ethnic separation. It's just like Black, right? So when you get these minority loans, right, uh, it's under race. So it's like all right,
That's what
we're
we're
trying to
working on.
delineate,
That's
which
what
is
we're working on. That's what all of the
yeah,
OMB is about. To
exactly.
make sure that they can't do that and will separate them so people can't say we gave Black Americans anything. If we look up and we see they're all Afro Latinos and Indians with suntans and everybody else in there. Go ahead, love, I am.
I'm here. Sorry, my phone was on a different screen. Am I talking over someone?
No.
Oh, okay. So, one thing that I wanted to say too is that oftentimes in this, when we have these discussions about all of this investment into Africa and these other communities or whatever, I don't even think we haven't had a conversation about the divestment from Black America that made that possible. Because you have to think like, and it's literally because they did not. We America had an issue with race that could have made America even a even greater world superpower. Okay, there was nothing that called for the outsourcing um, of this country's labor force and things like that. Um, but America has an issue with racism and their hatred for Black American people, and it even goes down to the fact of they would rather organizations invest in Africans than us. Because you have to think like, first, like, us as the number one labor force just in general is what propelled America to the forefront with the economy, built a very quick economy. But you have to think like this country literally had to make sure that our communities were divest, like they had to pull like no resources go towards them at all. Like, and it's the same thing with our, like, we would be the greatest investment in every area in my, unless I'm wrong, can somebody tell me if I'm like jumping the gun? But it just seems like in every area where there's an investment made into these other communities, that investment going into Black America would have been the greater investment. I would like to see when that occurred, where we could visibly see where they were skipping over Black Americans to invest in these other communities, because this was a very conscientious effort. And I just think it's weird that when we get in conversations and we're always talking about, like, for instance, what is Oprah getting, what are these people getting out of building schools in Africa? like not only are they building a school in Africa, but they're also saying that the greater investment is there versus their own people. But how could that be the case unless what are those considerations? Do you guys get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Didn't Oprah say something about the people over here wouldn't appreciate a school being built anyway?
Oh, did she say? See, so
She
that type
makes
of
nasty
statement is
comments.
that type of statement is crazy to say. And I was on my TikTok the other day and I saw this school down in Florida, this campus that's devoted to teaching the Black American children farming, and is devoted to teaching them art and media. And I'm like, wow, I can see why they didn't want us like I just, yeah, that, so she told a lie in order to justify investing in other places over investing in Black America. Okay, that makes sense, because they really just, it seems like they just hate us and they don't
She
want
just got that school over there and was able to get all those girls molested. And that was the goal. The goal is just to molest. Just probably use them as a pipeline or something. We'll find out later.
Um, I think it has more to do like with what the professor was saying earlier about the black bourgeoisie. Even in Malcolm X's autobiography, he talked about the black bourgeoisie class and how, they would brag about Africa and going over there and what they were doing in Africa. And I think in part, it's to show their class and to show it's a showing of elitism to say, hey, I built a school over in Africa. Because honestly, if you build a school over here, there is going to be a lot more scrutiny, a lot more accountability. You're not going to be able to just do whatever with our kids and get away with it. Um,
They're gone. They're gone.
I got his stupid ass.
yeah.
He's out of here.
We're both thrown
Yeah,
off.
like you can say what you want about LeBron James, but he built his school over here, and when it came down to like people coming for the kids' test scores and oh look at the test scores, look at what they're doing, I mean there was of course a lot of scrutiny, and there would be scrutiny anyway, but at least he did build his school here in the United States. But a lot of what you see, a lot of the rappers and folks who build their schools over there and then make a big press announcement about it over here. If you want to build your school, why do you have to do a big PR release of information regarding, what you're doing in another country? It's because you do it for status and you do it for attention. And also, once a school over there is built, it's like it's hands off for them. They're like, okay, I built the school and the people there locally are going to run it and those kids, are going to go to it. But when it comes down to actual accountability, the person who built the school and put the money up, they're not really going to be held accountable over there. It's going to be the local people.
Yep, that's definitely one of the aspects. Who's next? King.
Hello, can you hear me, guys?
Yep.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Shout out. My name is Tato Matzemela. I'm from the south. I'm from South Africa. I was born in KwaZulu Natal, but raised in Lesotho. Um, for me, what I've realized about these Pan Africanist organizations is that they don't seek to actually liberate people's consciousness. They don't seek to actually liberate people from fighting for the freedom. Um, so as I was saying is that they don't fight for black people to return back their homes because obviously you guys and obviously you came from Africa, taken as slaves there and civilized the
No, we
society.
don't come from Africa. We're created in America.
No, you actually
We're not
okay.
Africans that are
Let me put it.
civil. Shut up! You're
Let
not
me
going to put
actually.
it anyway. I will tell you what the fuck I am. Sit down.
Please don't talk to me that like that.
Don't tell me what I am. You
No,
don't
you are
know
African.
anything. Who
I
who
know more than you
who
know. I more than
educated
you
you?
know.
Nobody.
Women,
Nobody.
please behave yourself. It's
Man, shut up.
unattractive for you to
Shut
actually talk
up.
like that.
Shut
It's
up.
unattractive. Don't
You're
tell me to shut up.
unattractive. Don't tell us what our ethnicity is. Shut up and worry
No,
about
you came from
yours.
Africa. You came from
Shut
Congo. You
up.
came from the
Don't tell
South.
us what we are.
What the?
We have
No,
different
no,
things going
no. You
on.
no, 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 no,
No,
no, no.
yes,
Let's.
yes, yes. Shut your face. Worry about what's going on over there with your colored people. Don't tell us where we came from. Worry about your makeup.
Aha, dickhead.
The nerve of them to come over here and do that. The nerve of him to get his
And
ass up on
I'm not
stage and do that.
You
talking
guys,
to any
you
South
guys are actually
Africans.
confused. You
No,
guys
we
are
No,
not,
very
you're
nigga. We know
confused.
we ain't
confused.
you, nigga.
You got coloreds over there, don't you?
They call a foundational Black American confused when he doesn't know his history. When his
We
country is
didn't kick him
probably
off.
40
He just
years old or
left.
some shit, 60 years old. I can't. It's only so much I can tolerate. I will say that I can't hear you, Wani. I wish I would have heard what you said to him because it was funny as hell
I,
hearing his
I got it
dialogue. No,
recorded.
no, no,
I got it
woman, don't
recorded,
talk to me.
Professor.
Woman, please stop, woman. That's unattractive. Stop it. Don't cuss, woman. That shit was
Is it
funny.
screaming? I'm not tolerating a literal caveman telling me what my background is. Worry about your little groups of people over there with your little class system, your coloreds and your Africans. Don't come over here telling me what I am when you haven't worked out what you are. I made you. We wore Nelson Mandela shirts until he got out of jail. I made your ass. Shut up. Get in your place. Don't talk to me face to face.
While living in a shipping container.
This is why we delineate. It's not like we're pulling this out of our asses. This is every day with them. This and it used to be even worse on Clubhouse. They used to talk mad shit there. They kind of have humbled themselves. They've gotten a little bit better, but we got to stay on them because every so often somebody come walk on stage doing this.
You oh, can I say something please about that, Nikki?
Yeah, go ahead. It's recorded, Professor. Don't worry about it. Yeah, go ahead, love.
They humbled up a lot. And what happened, they humbled up a lot because what they were doing over on Clubhouse, see, they found a way to get some a little bit of fake allies over here. There was more pan-Africanism over here on Twitter than it was on Clubhouse. When I remember I was forced off of Clubhouse for my rooms with the Somalis. When I came over on Twitter, I'm like, hold on, what is going like there was a pan-Africanism over here on Twitter. And if they were showing their asses over here, the way that they was acting on Clubhouse, all of that shit would have gotten shut down very quickly. So I noticed a difference in their posture. They're doing a better job of pretending. Because on Clubhouse, they were showing their ass. And that's why it's important to note because they just think that we just want to have they have even tried to attempt to frame the diaspora wars like it started with us. No, those motherfuckers was showing their asses over there. No respect whatsoever. And they toned it down because there was more Pan-Africanism over here. And what was happening is that the Pan-Africanists were more willing to go back and forth with us Black Americans. So they didn't have to do too much. But they're pretending, they're hiding who they are. You saw how quickly he
Did you
went into
hear that
that.
description? No,
Yes.
you African, you will take over to America and civilized. So that
Ugh.
means your dumb ass is not civilized. So don't talk to me anymore, you fucking caveman. You uncivilized beast. You just said what you are. Okay? Conversation closed.
Yep. Delineation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am out of the Appalachian Mountain train, or chain, however you say it. And so I should have perception. I really hate, I heard a lot what was going on,
You
but I
can't
didn't hear
hear
what,
me?
I can hear you now, but I didn't hear what you were telling him.
That's good.
You sound like a train conductor when you came out, or either a train conductor or a pilot when you came out of it. You're like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are already out of the mountains.
I am a pilot. I don't brag on
I
it, but
thought
I
we
am a
were on the
pilot.
tour.
You are. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm a drone pilot. Yep. Or I was a drone pilot. Let's put it that way.
Go ahead, Professor. Keep talking.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is a very interesting space. I've really enjoyed it. Wow. I learned a lot. I'm gonna have to replay the tape to see what Dr. Short was saying, because some of the stuff he said I wasn't aware of. I thought it was a manifest destiny, but he said something else that I needed to research on. I wasn't aware of that. The move, I believe it, but the movement, this whole Pan Africanism movement was planned as controlled opposition. I didn't know it was documented like that. Wow, I'm blown away. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, there was a lot that came out about the whole movement, even on Clubhouse. They're like, "Oh, Nikki, you're just a Clubhouse." No, we learned so much about what people's true motives were on there. We had people sitting amongst us pretending to delineate. And then when it came down to it, you found out that they were working for the tethers, basically, that they were pro someone else. It was a whole lot of agents that we found out about on that app. That was like some type of study being done. I felt like we were being studied on. Didn't you feel like that, Wani and Love I Am? Like people were studying us and they were just
Yeah.
placing people amongst us just to see
Yes,
how
they
we would
were.
react.
You
It was
know,
crazy.
there was
Yeah,
an
I'm a social
African.
scientist. That's my career, and I'm not under any illusions that X is it's a social science experiment. The dominant society is using this. They're using what we're doing right now as a social science experiment. But if you look back at history, as I do, the shit they do always backfires on it. Because what has happened on X? What has happened on social media? We found each other. To be honest
The
with you,
reparations
they would have been
movement
better
has
off.
skyrocketed it got really big on Clubhouse, and then once it hit Twitter, the reparations movement has never been this big until it got to Twitter. So ha on them.
They call themselves spying on us. That's fine. I mean, but we found each other and we built off each other. So I look for, and it's real talk, I look for the next conflict to involve the EMP, electromagnetic pulse. I look for them, as powerful as Foundation for Black Americans becoming on social media, I look for some type of attack to happen to destroy the internet. I'm waiting on that one. Because to me, that makes sense. But it's too late. We know each other. We know each other live. We know each other.
Yeah, it's like, what do you call that? Was that a green book that they had for Black people, so we know where we could go to eat? This is kind of like our green book too, so that we could have contact with each other. It's like Tariq is sometimes, because I used to only be online, and he's always telling us, well, we need to get together and network so that we know. We know where the doctors are, we know where the lawyers are, we know where the professors are, we know where wait, let me call it. What do you call this? Let me look at this. Come on, I can't click on her. where the anthropologists are. That's what she is. So we know where the Wani spots are. So we know where the Love I Ams are. So we know how to communicate with each other because they don't want us to know who each other are, and they don't want us to have anyone to network with. So basically, what you just said. Y'all gotta excuse me. I get
They
the jumble lips sometimes when I'm talking, but y'all know that I'm on cold.
oh yeah, no, I do too. It's all good. But yeah, one thing I've been thinking since I was a child. When I'm from Alabama, and you're a minority, you're a minority, you're a minority, and I bought that shit until I started traveling. Like we would go to Detroit to visit family members, go to Chicago, go DC, and no matter where I went in the United States, it was black people every fucking where. And I was like, why am I a minority? And in my 20s, I start to wonder if that whole minority thing was really psychological
That's
warfare to make
part
me
of it.
think that I'm
That's part of
right,
the
right.
things like making the map look like certain things are small and certain things are big when they're not.
You know what? Who was it? Rizza Islam said the world isn't really round; it's more like oblong, like an oval egg. So we need to
Yep.
look at that too.
Yeah, it is. It's not perfectly round.
I believe that because it wobbles on its axis.
Yeah, I don't believe it's flat at all. I know it's obvious that it's not flat, but I never felt like it was completely round.
Yeah, I feel like that whole flat earth people, that's a disinformation campaign. Anybody who's been at least 40,000 feet in the air, you can see it at 35 and 30, at least 40,000.
I think I think that happened during a perfect storm. People discovered that the maps were off. People were like, "Why does it take this long to fly to South America if I'm here?" And I think that it was also people were skeptical about people that went to the moon. There's a whole lot of things that happened at the same time, and I think they just ran with it.
Lord, we need to have a space about Roland Martin. This man been tweeting all day like he on some type
What's
of
his problem? What is he saying?
he's just tweeting, retweeting everybody's stuff. He's just kissing anybody's ass that he can kiss. I think he just wants some type of spot somewhere. I got him on notifications, and it's all day. My phone battery dies down because he won't stop tweeting all day. What type of grown ass man is tweeting off of other people like that all day? He's supposed to have his own platform. I, I'm sorry for talking about me. You can hear my phone. This is Roland Martin right now. I'm gonna have to do a space about him.
What, I mean, I don't know what to say about him. He's just. Can we talk about that butt he was looking at? Is that part of the space?
He maybe he is
Just
like that.
checking.
I'll leave him alone. I'll leave him alone. I just like picking on him sometimes. I don't know why. I probably got mad because he blocked me 4 years ago, so I kind of been picking on him ever since. Maybe I need to leave him alone. But back to the title of the room. Does anyone else would anyone else like to come up and argue why that Pan Africanists really do work for us, or if they do, how so? Would anyone like to come up and talk to us about that if you feel that way? If you're serious?
It
Professor
says
been
it's,
driving in the goddamn mountains. Now he out, and now it say he got
and now
connection
it says
issues.
he's got connection issues. What a freak show this app is.
Yep. Dr. Short, anytime he goes into Reek's space and gets onto Reek's stage, he gets cut off. He has to call me and go through my phone to talk on
That's
stage.
terrible.
Yeah. So I think this is purposeful that this happens, and it because sometimes I keep getting kicked off of professor's stages. Then I go into Tariq's room and I go on his stage and they'll be fine. So I don't know.
That's interesting. But the question is, how many times do you get to have a scandal involving Pan Africanists and get away with it. And not just any scandal, not just a, you know, money scandal, money laundering, but actually working with the CIA on multiple occasions and with foreign agents. How many times do you get to do that before somebody says, this might be a problem? And then I thought to myself, how many times has the church been caught raping little boys?